Hello. Good day, everybody. Good day, Broad Coven. Hello, Cal. Wonderful to have you back on again.
Yeah, it's good.
Look at there's Angela. She's already here. She's like logged in so I don't miss it.
That's great. Nice. Oh wow, that's great. Good.
Yeah, we already have people that are showing up. So people are excited to have you here. I'm excited to have you here too. And we're already like talking. There's so much to talk about with Scorpio season, all energy. And I think I would just like to dive right in and you have for how and share your insights about everything that's coming forward for Scorpio season and the significance of what's happening
Shannon,
Pluto right now. And
Shannon,
yes,
you're talking like you're underwater. I can't hear
am I?
Yeah, well now you aren't, but you were just up until now. The sound was all like you're in a fish.
Well, maybe I was under the sea.
You were like in a fish tank or something. Now I can understand. Now I can understand.
I was under that Scorpio sea. Yeah, unfortunately, these things happen with lives. There's only so much I have control over. Sometimes you get stuff happening with streaming, okay? So hopefully I won't go under the sea again, but I'm back.
Oh, good. Now I can. No, it's good. It's good.
Good. Yeah. And it may go out again. You may go out again. I may disappear. You may disappear, but we'll always bring it back. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Good morning, Inez. Good to see you popping up again. We got Inez and Angela just dropping in to say hi, and there's other people here too. So welcome everybody. But let me just introduce you first, Cal, for those who don't know, maybe it's their first time coming here. Cal Garrison is like an astrologer extraordinaire known as Mother of the Sky. Over 50 years experience as an astrologer, deals a lot with old school astrology, like the roots of astrology. And I think you're the only astrologer I've really encountered that goes in depth regarding the asteroids. Okay. Hey, Angela. So I just love that you bring in so many pieces that I've never, even encountered in astrology before when I've dipped my toes into it. And I am very, very, very grateful to have you on and to learn from you and to be able to receive, along with everybody else here, the wealth of your wisdom when it comes to the sky and unlocking its mysteries, at least the little piece of it that we can grasp. And so I know that Scorpio season is a big loaded time, and I've been hearing the buzz and I know about some of this stuff, but I just know, I'm just starting to learn. I'm a little newbie on this path. I'm the fool and I just started my journey, but I've really appreciated learning from you. And I've been studying and studying with the Sabian symbols and all that, but I kind of want you to have the floor and just open things up, and I'll interject and such and shuffle my cards and just share with people what is the significance of Scorpio season, and maybe help us unlock that archetype of Scorpio so we can begin to maybe, how do I want to put it? Demystify the energy by grokking it, because that's what Scorpio energy is really about, right? I run a lot of Scorpio energy, so I know that it's a very sensing, it's a sensing kind of energy, it's like reading the room, it's picking up the vibrations and the more subtle currents. So, but I'll just leave it at that. And I kind of want you to navigate these waters to open things up and share your wisdom. And I'm just going to, while you're doing that, I'm going to bring in some Palo Santo and just send a little of that clearing energy everybody's way.
Yeah, the Scorpio is sort of referred to as the accursed sign. And it's because I don't think anybody, I've been on this for a long time. I still don't claim to fully understand Scorpio, so I don't know how talking about it is going to go, because I don't really have a script in my head for what I want to say. But I think the thing to understand is that the place that it holds in the zodiac is the place where we go to have a tantric relationship with life.
Mm.
And the thing with Scorpio is that the yearning is to get into the deepest level of connection with whatever it is that's out there. Okay, so we could call it other. We could call it just like connecting our nerve endings to the cosmos, that kind of thing, in a shamanic way. Scorpio is a shamanic archetype, and it comes right after Libra. And Libra is very interesting because nobody really understands that either. But by the time we get to Scorpio, the desire is to merge, body, mind, and spirit with whatever it is that is inside us and outside of us, so that we come to understand what it means to become one with all things. Okay, and to thus connect with that which is greater than ourselves. So this is interesting, sort of, to have to be born under this influence, because in the third dimension, it basically, this is, the third dimension is the last place anybody wants to end up. Okay, and if the spiritual component is important in any of the things that, we're talking about here on the earth, the spiritual component is completely misunderstood. So what happens to Scorpio is it gets translated, and it vibrates on a lot of different levels. And it's anybody that even does a little bit of studying of astrology knows that that whoever it is that wrote the books said that there's 3 types of Scorpios. And so that energy sort of vibrates at a very serpentine or snake-like level.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the snake, and then superior to the snake, or the next sort of rendition of it, is the eagle, and the third rendition of it is the phoenix.
Ooh.
So anybody
Sorry, giving me a moment.
anybody who incarnates under the influence of that sign, and that doesn't mean necessarily the sun. I've got more planets in Scorpio than you can shake a stick at. So it isn't just about the sun, because I'm a Virgo with an Aries moon, Cancer rising. Okay, but I've got more Scorpio than anything else, and it's interesting because Scorpios come in those 3 varieties, and you can pretty much identify them very easily. And every person who has a lot of Scorpio in them has the capacity to manifest any one of that triplicity at any given point in time, at any stage of their lives. And it's often the case that a Scorpio so will navigate from the serpent to the phoenix in the course of a lifetime. And it's also possible for the phoenix to slide back into being a snake. So I think one of the things that I find interesting with Scorpios is that the stereotype is that they're the sex sign. Okay, everybody is like, oh, you're sexy, you're a Scorpio. Oh, see, she had you had a phoenix tattoo on you because your higher self knew that.
Yeah, I wanted to interject at that part when you brought that in about the snake and the eagle and the phoenix energy, because I relate to snake medicine. Snake is one of my life path totems that I work with, Cobra's medicine bag. I mean, and a lot of people misunderstand the power of snake medicine. Snake is a medicine of transmutation, alchemy, the Kundalini life force energy. It's also shedding old skins. It's a very deep, sacred medicine, but there's also another aspect of it that people don't often consider, and that is that snake is very subtle and snake is very sensory. Snake really feels everything, the vibrations of everything. And snake moves with its belly pressed to Mother Earth, you know, so it's like it really can feel what's coming subterraneanly before it even arrives. And when you work with snakes, actual snakes, which I've had the experience of. I used to be terrified of snakes, absolutely horrified of snakes, because I just saw my mother terrified of snakes my whole life. So I just took it on. And it wasn't until I got into belly dancing, where I was surrounded by, you know, pythons all the time, that I had to kind of get to a place where I got over it. And so I had this really beautiful experience holding this python, Khaleesi, who had some kind of, she had some kind of brain trauma. So it made her very docile, and she was the perfect serpent for me to get familiar with. But what I learned is she came to me, she wanted to come to me, and the handler was like, do you want to hold her? Because she wants to come to you. And I was like, I guess I am, because before I could even answer, she was on my arm. And she wrapped around my wrist like a figure eight. And so I remember just like taking a deep breath and closing my eyes and sinking in. And I still can feel her to this day. When I drop in, I can still feel like the essence of her energy running through me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I learned is that, oh, I get it now. Snake is power.
Mm-hmm.
And to really hold the power without being overwhelmed by fear, you have to be very present, and you have to be very still and very attuned and very quiet. And it was just this amazing revelation for me. And it taught me so many lessons about how I had feared holding my own power in my life, and how that was reflected outside of me in the mirror of the experiences I had, where I always felt so disempowered. And then I finally really understood what snake medicine was all about. So that piece came in very strongly for me. But then eagle is a symbolism that's been coming in really forefront for me, just because I've been tapping into my Comanche roots more. So it's great spirit, and so it's very front and center for me. But also recently Garuda came in, who is Vishnu's vehicle, Vamana, and Vahamana, and he is he's a golden eagle kind of energy, you know. And it's interesting because you brought in your recent write-up about Chiron conjunct Shiva, and you know, Shiva is part of that Trimurti that also includes Vishnu and Brahma as well. So I thought that that was really interesting. And I did a little video here on Broad Coven. It's like a meditative process to attune to the energy of Garuda, because when that came in, I was really like wanting to bring that in, because there was such like parallels between the Sphinx energy and the chariot, you know, like all the symbolism has been so front and center, and it's been coming through for me archetypally. But in that particular vision that I led people through, I had Garuda kind of like, I had the people grok Garuda basically, right? And then led them to come and rise up. And they rose up like the phoenix, like flaming. So it's so fascinating to me to hear you talk about it. And you're talking about Scorpio, and we're steeped in this energy. And already it's like those symbols are like coming in, you know, it's like the keys are there. And that just further, I think, exemplifies sort of that energy signature of Scorpio. I just want to bring that in because, yep. See, and there's Angela too. It came Eagle Owl Phoenix for Angela. Interesting.
Yeah, owls interesting too. I mean, the whole thing with the whole thing with Scorpio is, you know, that energy. I think what you pick up on is, you know, as you say, you have this, the cobra medicine. So, you know, you're picking up information comes through your pores. Do you know what I mean? And
I do. Yes.
it's kind of just, it's there. Everything is coming through osmosis. I don't think everybody gets it that way. I don't get it that way.
I don't have, people ask me where I get the stuff that I get, and I don't know. It has nothing to do with me. It's just something that comes through. But I find it fascinating because then when I like when I was reading, you know, your article that you wrote up, which is wonderful, your astrological write-up for your coffee site where you do the weekly horoscopes. But beyond that, you also provide just a lot of knowledge about astrology. And you always give a really amazing breakdown of the astrology in play. I always I trip out, you know, like I tripped out this week because I was like reading your write-up and I'm like, oh my gosh, these themes have been coming in. I've been doing readings about this stuff. I've been talking about it.
Yeah.
So it amazes me the way it really is all interconnected. And what it makes me think is it's not just me. I mean, I think everybody can be at that place where it's like instant access to all that knowledge, right? If we're tapped in and then we're in that space of receptivity, but it all depends. But maybe the Scorpio stuff helps. I don't know. But we all have our different means too of grokking. Like you unlock the cosmos, you know, in a way. I'm like, I'm just beginning to scratch the surface. So
No, it's just because I'm a nerd.
I'm wrong. You're brilliant too. I mean, it's not just that you're a nerd, it's that you're brilliant.
But I guess that's what happens when, you know, nothing else really worked out. So I just got into my astrology, you know what I mean? And so the only relationship I've ever had that actually worked was the one I have with astrology. And there's got to be a reason for it. I don't know the answer for that. But in terms of what we're trying to discuss about, you know, Scorpio and all of that, the deal with Scorpio, I don't care if you're a snake or an eagle or a phoenix, okay, or whether you're slip sliding back and forth between the three at different points in time. I think the one thing, and you said it already, is that the thing that Scorpio is mainly concerned with, regardless of what level they're vibrating it at, is power. Okay, and people associate power with all different kinds of things. There's that dark kind of energy that has to do with power over things, or having things have power over you. So the snake scorpion is well, they're not necessarily always down in the dumps. They can be gigantic creeps, you know. I could think of, who could I think of one? Well, I could think of a ton of Scorpios, okay, who are gigantic creeps, but I don't want to offend anybody. The serpent type you just have to be careful of, because all they want to do is fuck you, one way or another, okay? And so,
and then if you don't want to fuck them, then watch out.
well, and yeah, and I guess that all depends on who they're dealing with, because of course,
look at Angela's laughing. I just want to say, you had somebody say hello to you, Cal. Frank Maloney said, "Hey, go Cal."
Oh, hi, Frank. Frank's
and
my
hello,
friend.
Star Tree Dancer. Good to see you.
He's so sweet. Who's that? Huh? I can't see it.
Which one?
I don't know. I can't see any of the people that you're talking about.
Oh, they're in the comments over here. You might need to change your view so it's on comments on your end, Cal. You should be able to see the comments. I'll pop them up here for you, but I'll call people out. And Inez, Mars shares the ruler with not only Scorpio, but also with Aries.
Yes, well, that's true. I mean,
here you go. You got another one. And then we'll let you get Jenny Bassett says, Cal is the best.
Jenny,
hi, Cal.
Hi, Jenny. Oh, my Jesus.
See?
This is like, talk about a blast from the past. That's great. Hey, Jenny. Now, what were you just saying? What you were
We
just
were
saying?
we were talking about the slippery nature of Scorpio.
Yeah, well, they are. I mean, they can be creepy, you know, and they can be shrewd and they can be clever. They're very good at manipulating other people's resources, and they draw their power from outside of themselves, and they are addicted to whatever it is that they can get from other people.
Mm.
So the awesome power of their life, the life force, is their main squeeze. They like that. They like to be near it. So sex becomes important to them because, of course, they don't realize that it's not just about the sensation, it's about the exchange of energy between them and God. Okay. That's why they get so stuck on sex. So okay, so
They just need a little balance, just a little temperance energy there. And then this makes me think of the Ophiuchus energy, Sagittarians born November 30th to December 18th. Yes. And I know not everybody buys into that, but I want to bring it in because that was a theory that came out of the Far East. And with that Shiva in play, conjunct Chiron, you said it relates to all things Asian and Far East. And so I think that's significant because, I mean, I never paid much attention to Ophiuchus before, but I feel like that energy's been really front and center, in particular in terms of getting the wheel of karma to move forward. And when I think of Ophiuchus, that's known as the snake charmer, it makes me think of, one who holds both those energies of not only Sagittarius, which is all about the moving into expansion, but also makes me think of Scorpio energy. They're kind of a merging of both of those energies, which I actually think is pretty powerful and alchemical, like the temperance there and that balancing point.
yeah.
Here's Rockin' Bird. So excited to find you on YouTube, Cal.
Oh, isn't that I know. Oh my God, I know that name. Oh my Jesus, this is so funny. Yeah, the business of Scorpio and sex and Ophiuchus. See, you're talking over my head with that particular reference. I have no idea what's up with Ophiuchus, or it's that 13th sign that's between Scorpio and Sag.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of debate about it, but I
no,
think it's an archetype. It's interesting.
I don't get into those arguments with people.
Yeah. No, it's not
Okay?
an argument. It's just,
I just don't, and I find it interesting. And yes, I can see the connection, and I can see your point, and it's an interesting point of discussion that I certainly wouldn't dispute. But the thing with the snake medicine, there isn't anything intrinsically bad with the serpent. The problem being in a polarized reality, because, like it or not, we live in duality, is that the problem with the snake medicine is that people have a tough time extracting light from it.
Well, that's
or
even
indoctrination, or being able to even find the light in it, because of course our relationship to those things has been distorted for 13,000 years, and nobody really knows what we're talking about anymore. And the whole thing with sex,
we're talking about death to the programming. There's that Scorpio energy.
Isn't that great? No. I mean, that's a good sign. So we're okay. So far we've got temperance and death.
And then we got the moon. Look at all major arcana.
That's great. And the moon's in Virgo today too. It's interesting.
It is. And then it's interesting because now I have to bring in, you brought in the Via Combusta in your write-up, right? Which is when we have what is known in, and that's going on through tomorrow. And that in Latin, the Via Combusta means the burning way or the fiery way. I kind of look at it as like the fire test of truth. And that's a phrase that I brought in quite a bit recently. It's the part of the zodiac that is 15 degrees Libra, to 15 degrees Scorpio. And
Mhm.
it's interesting because the Sabian symbol, which you turned me on to, James Burgess's work, which is amazing. And
Mm.
I found it so helpful just in moving through this crazy astrology. It's really been helping me make sense of it and do something practical to ground what may seem slippery, like that snake, or kind of hard to grasp or decipher. It's rooted it in a way for me that makes it more understandable, so that 15 degrees Libra Sabian symbol is circular paths,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
so it's like the spirals that we travel, and sometimes going over old grounds. It's and the way that we have to look at it as is the phrase that comes with it is serene realization of the cycles of creation and destruction. And so it's like, if you recognize that these are just loops, there it's the cosmic spiral. We travel these loops, and sometimes you're on the lower rung and sometimes you're ascending on the upper rung, but it never stops. That energy is always moving. It's a constant cycle. It's there, present in nature. We see it all around us right now, with everything that's falling away from the trees and moving into the colder time. Although we got an El Nino this year, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be warmer this year, they say, up where I'm at, just outside of Detroit. Um, but you know, it's the only way to really move through that is, first of all, acceptance, right? Because you can't fight what is just the natural order of things. And the natural order is chaos, that all things are constantly creating and devolving and rebirthing, and that's just life. Nothing's static. We like the framework. We like to be attached to it. It gives us a false sense of having some control, but really we never do have control. And I think that, you know, I hear so much, it seems like to me lately, I get that things are really at a state of unrest in the world. And there's a lot that we need to address. And there's a lot that's crumbling right now. And we're going to have to rebuild it in a new way. But you hear a lot of this sort of like the sky is falling mentality. And it puts us in this fear space where we automatically move into contraction. And so I've really enjoyed the Sabian symbols because they provide like sort of a way to funnel it into a different reality tunnel. Like, how can I apply this? I understand that things are difficult right now and out of control, but they're always out of control. And so does it have to be out of control? You know what I mean? Just in terms of how we relate to it. Does that mean we need to spiral out and, you know, lose our grounding and feel overwhelmed by fear and incapable of acting? I don't really believe so. And it's interesting you brought in Pisces, because the means of expansion, it's 19 degrees Pisces, okay, which is all about doing what we're doing today. Transmission,
What's 19 degrees?
participate in the
What's
transmission of love and knowledge.
what's
That's
19
how we
degrees
move in,
Pisces?
huh?
What's 19 degrees Pisces?
19 degrees Pisces, the Sabian symbol expression for 19 degrees Pisces is the means of expansion through the via combusta. And it says
Oh,
participate in the transmission of love and knowledge. And then 15 degrees Scorpio is the Sabian symbol is children playing around 5 mounds of sand. And it's the first steps of humanity's spiritual breakthrough. So we're actually, it's like, yeah, it's the end. It's the end of the old way, which is really something to feel positive about.
mm,
We don't have to look at it as doom and gloom. We can look at it as something that's like actually really positive. Like, yeah, I mean, the truth is harsh. There's a lot of work to be done. But I mean, we got Pluto and Capricorn to hold us to task on that. So, and we're going to be moving into Aquarius with that near the end of January 2024. So if we stay focused in the right way, you know, we can move into expansion. Now, with that children playing around 5 mounds of sand, first steps of humanity's spiritual breakthrough. This is the point where we're realizing how little we really know, right? Which you've been bringing that in, right? So
mm.
there's the acknowledgement of that. But the means of expansion is 19 degrees Aries Sabian symbol, which is training how to release the grasping mind.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I know, right?
So I
So it's
guess
like we don't need to figure it out. It's not
Stop
about the
thinking.
mind. It's not about thinking about it anymore. It's about doing, which is the same energy of Pluto direct Capricorn. Pluto direct Capricorn is like, get up, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, stop going like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is, what are you going to do about it? And that brings us to the current Sabian symbol that got brought in for the whole lunar cycle with that full moon that we had, those 5 degrees Taurus, which is was all talking about a widow standing above an open grave, and
At
that
the
we need
open
to release
grave,
our
yeah.
grief and our sadness and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the anecdote to that, or the means to expansion, is 9 degrees Libra, which is 3 masters in an art gallery. What are those 3 masters? Habituation, mentality, and social. So you got to look at those areas, and what are you doing in those areas that you need to switch up using the energy of Pluto direct Capricorn, so you can make a new foundation. So actually, we shouldn't be even sitting around thinking about this stuff, because it's what's going to bog us down further. Again, it's working with the energy of the age of the Kali Yuga, not falling into apathy, but getting active, moving out of the tamasic energy that makes you slow and dull and, oh, woe is me. And it's like that heavy kapha energy in Ayurveda where you're just like, I wish things were the way they used to be, and feeling overly sentimental and weepy and depressed and dark and gloomy, to invigorating through the active force of fire. It's like, no, you got to get up. And Capricorn energy, you got to root in material reality. And I like Capricorn as an archetype, because people always think the devil, and it's like, yes, it is the devil in tarot. But I think people negate the effect of, I've often recently even seen Capricorn almost as like another kind of abstract mirror for that temperance energy, because they're the sea goat.
Hey, look, I switch to fucking decaf, man. I don't even know what
No
you're
way,
talking about.
man.
No. I'm listening. I'm just like, whoa, what is she on? I was like, I'm like, okay. So how could I not agree with everything you're saying? Oh, hi. Yes, it is. Oh my God, Elisa, Elisa's one of my favorite people on the planet. She lives out in California. And yes, we're coming out of the Via Combusta today. All right, so we're leaving that rocky road, or whatever, the burning way, and so it's perfect that we're having this conversation now.
It's perfectly timed. That's what I thought was so great about it.
I agree with absolutely everything you're saying. There is no way you can argue with anything you're saying. What is this?
Has Cal seen the chart for the upcoming Scorpio new moon? 21 degrees Scorpio.
No.
Not sure what
I
the
haven't.
Sabian symbol is for that one.
I haven't had to look at it yet. I look at so many, right now I've got about 6 charts in my head. So that one, no. I haven't figured out what's up with that, but we could check it out. What'd you do? Pick up another card?
Oh my God, Cal, it's all majors. Are you ready for the final one before I start shuffling while we're talking here?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. What is that? I can't see.
It's just too perfect.
Oh, I love that one.
Judgment.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
that's the Libra energy, South Node Libra energy, which brings to what we're doing. That's part of what the cyclical circular route is. It's just the wheel of karma. We're, weighing out the karma. And it's also the cycles of birth, life, death, and here's the rebirth.
Yeah.
Gabriel's blowing the horn. Time to wake up, sleepyheads.
Yeah.
Pluto's in Capricorn. You got to get to work. Stop your bitching. We're tired of it.
You know what it is?
Get off the cross. We need the lumber.
That's right. That's basically when I see that card, it's like no more excuses.
Yes.
No more excuses. It's like, okay, fuck it, put your big girl panties on and just show up. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoever it is that you think you are. Okay. It's like, just show up for this, because it's time.
Yeah.
And I think
it's okay. It can be messy. It doesn't need to be perfect. What matters is showing up. and being real and being like, okay, I understand. I brought it in recently. I went through a while ago. Sadhguru did an inner engineering training, and it was amazing. And Sadhguru brought in this whole like satsang on responsibility and just reminding people about the etymology of the word, that responsibility is really about saying, I always have
Responding.
the unconditional ability to respond. And what that response looks like is different in every situation. In some cases, that response may be like, I need to put a boundary line down here, or I can't take this on because I'm in this position, and to take this on would mean that I'd be doing so begrudgingly or out of resentment. So that's not a positive energy to contribute. And sometimes it may mean like offering something, or actually, rolling up your sleeves and getting in there and doing the work. And so I feel like that's what it's really about right now. I mean, everything is asking us to do that. It's like, even with the Sisyphus conjunct the ascendant that you brought in,
Well, wait a minute. Okay, so I want to stick my 2 cents in here.
Yeah, please do.
One thing I think is, like, I hear everything that you're saying. I hear everything is, oh yeah, it's time to roll up our sleeves and take action. Okay, I get it. I get it. Sometimes the most appropriate thing to do is to surrender. And the issue now here is to be able to tell the difference between when it's time to sort of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and when it's time to just say, shut up and get out of the way. Because the issue that I see happening, and it's weird for me because I'm always, right now I'm working on an article and looking at charts that aren't going to be actually manifesting in the third dimension until February. Mm-hmm. All right. And one of the things that I see as a thread that is connecting now to then is a connection in an aspect that I don't think I mentioned in the article that you're referring to. But right now there is a conjunction between chaos and Astrea. Okay. And they happen to be both sitting at 0 degrees Cancer, which is one of the main cardinal points. Okay. And if the esoteric significance of 0 degrees Cancer is pretty wild, but the conjunction between chaos and Astrea at that degree of Cancer is is sort of a freeze frame of information about what is looming on the horizon for all of humanity right now. Okay, that's how you read when you do a chart for the big picture. The ascendant is okay. This is what's on the horizon. So what's going on is Astrea and chaos are conjunct, and they're circling the horizon. Okay, so chaos is exactly what its name implies. But nobody understands chaos except in that sense. Okay, so we just read chaos as, oh, fuck, the shit's hitting the fan, right?
Discordians know it's not. Robert Anton Wilson knew it wasn't.
Okay, well.
I mean, there are people who do know, so I think that that's kind of like the point, though. It's like.
Let me finish what I was saying. Yeah. Shut up. It's okay. No, I'm not contradicting you. Mm-hmm. The thing about chaos is that here in the third dimension, see, in a perfect world, or in some of the reality structure in a galaxy far, far away, chaos is automatically understood to be the realm of possibilities. That's all it is. Okay. In the third dimension, which, okay, in case you didn't know, the third dimension is the asshole of the universe. And it is the last place anybody wants, and everything is totally fucked up here. Okay, so what's light gets interpreted as dark, and everything is reversed. And what happens to chaos, which is the infinite realm of possibilities, is it turns into the shit hitting the fan. In the way that we automatically respond to it. And that concept upsets all of our needs for certainty. Everybody's addicted to certainty. So be patient with me now. So what happens is we've got this image of chaos like rolling around the horizon, and it's conjunct Astrea. Well, guess what Astrea is? Astrea is famous final scenes and the eyewitness to disaster and long drawn out fucked up endings. So what have we got going on at the moment? You know, and what I say to people is like, you don't even need to talk to me, just pay attention. What's happening right now is exactly what the stars are saying, okay, if we take the time to dissect that. But it's quite obvious to me that there is everything, the realm of chaos is like sort of on top of the stack right now, and the chaos is being exacerbated by the fact that we are in the middle of, you know, not just some kind of minor soap opera, but this is the end of the friggin' Kali Yuga. Okay, the entire Yuga cycle is coming to an end. Okay, how long is that? 250,000 years long? Okay, and here we are putting on the brakes at the tail end of this shit show. And everybody's wondering, oh, how come we can't get it back to the way it used to be? Or how come things are so fucked up? It's fucked up because it's perfect. It's meant to be that way right now. If it was any other way, we would be out of touch with things. So just you're on this ride. We're all here. Is the best way to confront it, standing up and saying, I'm going to do something about this. To me, that's oxymoronic.
Thank you, Inez. That's where I'm at.
Okay,
Chaos is the realm of possibilities, but that doesn't mean a thing if humans of Earth don't wake the fuck up and step into their power as co-creators of all this mess. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, it's one thing to say, this is what is happening right now, right? Obviously. The thing about the Kali Yuga is it just talks about what will be the prevalent qualities that are forward at the time, which is laziness, greed, apathy. And I mean, we're seeing it in the decline of the Western civilization, but in no way does that have to be a fate that we succumb to. And in fact, it's interesting with the cards that came out. I mean, yes, we have the moon, the delusion, you know, the Neptunian stuff, the places of fear that we can go into in our minds. And this piece is important because unless we start focusing on the right thing, and taking action doesn't mean you have to go out and like fight, fight, fight. Taking action actually in alignment with what's going on with the astrology means that right now we do a systems check. We look at those areas where, you know, we need to change habituation, what our thoughts are telling us, how we're using our mind, what are we manifesting, because whatever we're seeing out there, okay, it's already happening first in here because we're all creating it together. Mm-hmm. So if we're just saying there's no hope and it's meant to be fucked up, then that automatically creates fucked upness. But if, instead we say it's fucked up, yes, not denying that, accepting the state that things are in. And instead of focusing on that, I'm going to focus on what can I do to unfuck myself. And once you start to do that, it spreads and other people start to unfuck themselves. Yes, and then soon you get grassroots movements where people are like, hey, let's unfuck this together. And so that's how you move into the age of Aquarius.
I don't buy into that at all.
Well, that's why we got the state of the world we got, because everybady's just willing to go, we have no control over it, but we're co-creators.
Oh, I mean, no, wait a minute. Back up just a little bit. Okay.
I mean, it's very clear. I just got to show you this, the card that came out. We're meant to follow the heart and move away from the old way with the 8 of Cups. This is what's at crossroads here. Three of
Oh,
Wands. The ship's coming in, the new beginning, the dawn of the new beginning, to the Queen of Swords. The truth. That's what the Queen of Swords speaks, the truth. Libra energy, South Node. This is the balancing of the karma. We're not meant to keep looking at, oh, it's fucked up, it's fucked up, it's fucked up. We're meant to move into the heart. Even the Sabian symbol said that. We're moving into humanity's spiritual breakthrough. And this is about us talking about spreading the transmission of love and knowledge. How can we move into unity instead of division? Well, we
this
can't
is
do that if we're always focused on darkness.
this is so Libra Sag. It's amazing. Okay, do you know that Libras are the best generals?
You're in Sag energy too.
I'm not shitting on you.
I know, I'm just saying. But it's true. It's like you gotta look at, sometimes you gotta look at things plainly. It's like, yeah, it sucks. Does it seem impossible right now? I get it. Yeah.
No, wait a minute. You know what I think? Because of what you said originally is it's time for us to all start looking at what we're doing to fuck things up. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's every day from moment to moment you're doing that. Okay, it isn't just, oh, it's a bad time, I think I'll start paying attention. From moment to moment,
I agree.
In a state of awareness as to whether or not you're in integrity or not.
Agree.
Okay, and how this relates to what's going on right now. I mean, the whole stretch between, you know, the first day of that the sun enters Scorpio and the day that it enters Sagittarius, or more likely, really, the day that it crosses the solstice cusp, is that this whole stretch of the year at an as above so below level is we're moving through the valley of the shadow of death into the next incarnation or iteration of whatever it is that our creative juices are combining to create for the time that's coming up on the road ahead. And Chaos and Astrea's famous final scenes, Astrea is hanging around till the bitter end to watch the shit show. And this chaotic energy is just part of the zeitgeist right now. It's part of the, so there's, why would you want to do, you know, to think why would you want to do anything to change that? Because it's perfect. And if you think about the fact that, okay, we're about 2 years away from whenever the Kali Yuga sort of officially meets its end at the Aries point, and this cluster of planets moves into that spot to bring a whole bunch of other cycles to completion. So we're 2 years away from being at the point where the final rinse cycle is over and done with, in the age of whatever it is, the Satya Yuga, or the age of light kicks in again, or the golden age, and everything's hunky-dory. So there's nothing intrinsically wrong with this, but we're sliding into home plate. And it makes me wonder if it is naive.
It is. That mentality is naive, because that's the whole thing that's going on with Pluto direct in Capricorn right now. And what people don't understand is, it's like, yeah, that is how it's supposed to roll out. Yeah, it's perfect. And if you want to step into a golden age and have it really grow and prosper and expand, you need to have the right foundation.
But you
right?
see, but this is okay, but we're all walking through the fire on our own.
But we're still co-creating together. It's all one energy.
Yes, it is, and it's not. Okay, because we're not there yet.
That doesn't matter. That's why the foundation's important. If you don't build for a proper expansion, then it will fail. That's the whole point.
I don't know if you got a bunch of people who are half-assed into their spiritual understanding, trying to get off on the right foot simultaneously, And
Well,
you
yeah,
call that
but
working
you're already
together?
kind of
It
like
ain't.
shooting it down before it even has a chance for people to grow and for people to understand and people to
I've been
apply it.
watching it since 1960. Do you know how many fucking group meditations I've sat through?
I know, but
Okay.
maybe it's a
Yeah.
new day and it's a new age and there's things that y'all did back then that don't really apply now.
Yeah, well, that's a
And
good way to
maybe
look
there's a
at it.
new way forward and maybe we're all meant to innovate. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be
I don't.
perfect.
I disagree. I disagree, but that's
It's
okay.
okay to disagree.
No, but I'm just saying.
It's okay to
I'm just saying.
disagree.
You might be right. I don't know. I just know that at the moment we're in the middle of this sliding down the slippery slope into whatever is next.
I'm surfing it. You can slide. I'm not
I'm,
sliding. I'm
I
surfing it, man.
well, I don't know how to surf,
Well, you can
but
learn how.
I
That's the
can sit
point.
down on no. But what I do in situations like that is I sit down on my skis and I just slide down.
Okay, well that's a way to do it.
Yeah, it's just
Why can't you sit down on your boogie board and surf the Zubaya? You know what I'm saying?
because I'm not you.
Yeah, but you can surf it your own way.
And I did, and I just said that I did.
Yeah.
You see, and it's I understand what you're saying, and it's like it's kind of like this psychological pep rally for whatever's next. I get it, and I understand about coming from the idea of positive outcomes and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Well,
and I'm not sliding into depression because I can acknowledge the fact that things are chaotic because it's all coming to an end.
I see. Oops.
Yeah, we
We
all
all
have
have
our
our
ways.
ways and
Nothing,
men are
nothing's
incorrect, correct. And I also agree with this here with Angela, that if we don't have a mentality that we aren't alone, we will all fail. And I agree with that. It's not a matter of, what you're saying isn't true or that there isn't all this stuff, but there's a way that you can even greet destruction and still be productive, because the reality is if destruction comes and nobody's been doing whatever they can in their own life to focus in a productive way, okay, to build some energy, all right, to build some energy toward what will that new future look like? What do we want it to be? The time for doing that is not when it's right upon you. I mean, Saturn teaches these lessons. It teaches the value of time and using your time wisely.
But
And
see,
if
the other thing is too, you don't even know what you're dealing with. So you're trying. What do you want the future to look like?
well, I know I
You're
want the
not
future.
working with
I
a
know.
full
I
deck.
can tell you. I can tell you. I know
Okay.
that I want the future to look like everybody should have a home. That I want people to be able to have freedom to form their own communities and
Okay.
to have
Yeah. No.
community gardens that feed all the people. I know that I want healthcare to be accessible for everyone. I know that I want us to be able to be ruled by inner authority as opposed to outer authority.
No. I
You know
get
what
it.
I mean? So
No.
knowing
But
that, wait, no, wait. Now
what
you
makes you
shut up.
think
Now
that's
you
not
shut up. Now you
okay?
shut up.
But what
Now
makes
you
you
shut
think
up.
that's
Now
not
you shut
happening?
up. Wait.
Okay.
You asked me what I wanted. Now you shut up.
Okay.
Fair is fair, okay? I know what that vision looks like. And to make that really grow in the future, you got to prepare for it now. So you got to start opening people's minds to that. You got to get people prepared and ready to actually make those changes. To put a foundation like that in place takes a long time. It begins with education. It also begins with people realizing that if we pull our energy together in a state of union, then there's a lot that we can achieve. But if we just look at everything as horrible, it is a very Libra Scorpio discussion. If we look at everything as horrible, okay, then and we just got to write it out and there's nothing that we can really do about it, then we arrive in this golden age, no better off than we were before. And we're still in this place where we're apathetic, we're lazy, everything's been destructed. Now everybody's in this like very complacent place where it's easy for them to be rolled over. Nothing productive has happened in the meantime. But if we focus on where we can be productive, where we can do things in a new way, where we can start to make changes first within ourselves on whatever level and whatever level is right for you in approaching that, okay? then we can spread that out within our communities. And, it's the slow thing. That's what building a foundation is about. And yes, all around you, the old structure is falling apart. And all around you, whatever needs to play out on the grand stage of life, according to the way nature chooses to roll that out, rolls out. But if you go through that and all you're doing is just going, well, nothing left to do, but just sit and kind of like just face it, that it's all going to be destroyed.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, I'm just saying, it just sounds a little, it sounds a little fatalistic. And this is something that I've noticed recently, that there's a lot of this that's out on the news, on social media. It's all fatalistic thinking, and it's all focusing on the negatives and nothing that can give anybody anywhere to channel or funnel their energy. And I think that creates a real problem, because it feeds into people's fear, their anxiety, and their sense that they have no power to affect any kind of change in their life, which is simply not true. Okay. It's not. Well, there's people that are being forces of change in the world right now.
I'm not advocating anything that you're saying.
Okay.
That's not what I'm saying. Roll over and play dead. No, I mean, if you recognize that things are changing, I don't know what all of this does for me. Is it inspires me to go within.
Well, yeah, you do have to look within to go without.
And go, it inspires me to go deeper into the mystery. It doesn't inspire me to give up. It inspires me to say, wow, no, not at all. I'm not advocating that at all. But I mean,
the goal to go within is to eventually have that shine without. It's like we are being called at this moment to go within, absolutely, to go within to really.
And it's not an abstract thing. Okay, it isn't just something that you can. It's real. But anyhow, I don't want to get stuck on this thorn. I thought we came here to talk about Scorpio.
Well, and now we're getting into
this. This is a little, I guess this is the crux of the matter, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And I'm saying,
it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to see things differently. It's okay to see things differently. I actually don't think we're saying things. I actually don't think that we're saying things so differently. I think that there's different modes of expression. And in actuality, it's necessary to decrease, like you're talking about, okay, to go within, to pull the energy within before we're able to, see what action is necessary to take to go without. You know what I mean? It's like we are being asked to go within. And this is the crux of the matter, Cal. This isn't like comfortable stuff to talk about. And the whole world is in this space of division where people are having a hard time communicating. They're seeing things very differently. Everybody feels very passionately about their positions. And so we have to learn how to kind of like hold space for these conversations like we're doing now, which is about the love coming through and is about spreading that knowledge, and participation in that process is an action that is foundational for moving things forward in the future. And going within, pulling the energy within and diving deeper into the mystery is every bit a part of that, because sometimes you have to decrease in order for there to be increase. So this came up recently in a recent I Ching. If you already have everything so full, of what you're trying to release, trying to let go of, then you can't put anything new in that space. So we're in a process of that Scorpio energy of death and release and letting go of the old way of being. But we have to think and consider and focus on what are we going to fill in that space. And that's the active energy. That's all I'm saying. And each of our own personal responsibility in that as we co-create, comes into play there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's all I'm saying. It's not that different. But we are being asked to take action. And that action is sometimes getting clear on where we're at and what is our responsibility to move things forward, at least in what we're focusing on.
Hmm. I just my I don't I relate to things in a very personal way, and I think the way I'm seeing it now is that understanding, okay, that the chaos is just it's just a fact of life. See, people don't understand it. Chaos was there before Gaia and Kronos gave birth to the world.
Absolutely.
All right, chaos is where it always goes when we get back to the beginning. Chaos is the great void. Chaos is the waters of the deep. Chaos is the womb of creation. From my perspective, and I respect what you're saying in terms of, yeah, well, we got to figure out what we want for the future, and I want what you want. Okay, I see that as a possibility. How it's unfolding is the problem that I have is, being a spiritual warrior and marching into the chaos and saying that I'm going to organize it. Because it's oxymoronic if you understand the true nature of chaos. It's kind of like 52 pickup. You got to wait for the cards to fall to see what you're going to do about it. This doesn't mean that you can't be vigilant and aware and conscious. I'm vigilant and aware and conscious. It isn't just something that I do when I decide to do it. It's there all the time. And I think what happens as you sort of go into your life over time is that you understand that it's a moment-to-moment thing. And it's certainly not intellectual at all. But and I'm not going passively into the future. My aim right now is to live as long as I possibly can so that I can be a blessing to my higher self. All right. What's up on the road ahead? It's funny. Yeah, we're in chaos. I've been sort of like arcing into stuff, trying to get beyond the Scorpio and the Vio Combusta and trying to see if there's any light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not over yet, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. But by the time February rolls around, there's going to be a bunch of aspects that sort of like kick in. When I see that operating up on the road ahead, and I can't even remember what the aspect is right now. I think it's Jupiter and Uranus are coming into a conjunction at a time with an asteroid that's extremely beneficial. And it just means, I think it's Pandora. And so the whole idea of like unseen blessings are already on their way. That's what's going on right now. And we're plowing through the wreckage of whatever's left of the past and having to reckon with whatever it is that our blind spots make it impossible for us to let go of. And see, this is the thing when you say, well, we got to go out and tell people about the truth because they need to know. You can't tell
No. I'm not saying the truth. That's
anything.
not what I'm saying at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying we need to open up discussions like this. And you actually touched on the point that I was trying to make when you said, I want to see the same kind of future you were talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It's about focusing on that. Instead of focusing on what is degrading, which we're all aware of. I mean, that's obvious. So we don't need to focus on that. But if we can all focus instead on, hey, guess what? I want that too. I want us all to have freedom too. I want us all to have, the ability to live a good life on this garden of earthly delight. And I don't look at the third dimension as like the butthole the dimensional realities. I don't. I have a very different perspective. I think that's part of the problem with human beings on the earth is just this is a garden of earthly delight, and there is so much to enjoy here. And the problem is we have a lot of focus. It's the way we focus our attention and our awareness. It's like, yes, these problems are here, and it's not about ignoring that there's problems or there's work to be done. But if your constant focus is that and understanding our role that we do contribute to creating this reality, if our focus is there, we continue to create that same reality over and over and over and over and over again, because the outer will always match the inner. And so, yes, just like Rockingbird is saying here, as a Scorpio, going within is my first response to important issues. Got to be careful to come back out, though. And I agree with that. It's like, yes, it's good. It is good to go in. And it is good to have that call to go within, to get in touch with the soul, the spiritual self. But it's also a time to put it forward very practically. We know that with Pluto forward in Capricorn. Pluto does require in Capricorn that we hold ourselves to the task of doing what we can do to form a foundation. Now, this isn't about you having to go out there and lead the charge, and certainly not in telling everybody what the truth is, because nobody has access to the truth. From my perspective, I'm a Discordian. Hail Eris. I'm all about chaos. This is my path. I'm very familiar with chaos. And chaos is what you make of it. Can chaos be a destructive force? Absolutely. Chaos is also a creative force? Absolutely, like you just brought in. But there's a way that you can move through the chaos without it having to be something that has to be such a negative thing. You can do it through innovation. You can do it through playing with the energy. You can do it through saying yes to the energy and moving into the expansion of it instead of being in fear or focusing on the negativity, which causes one to move into contraction, and then nothing gets done. It provides blockages to the creative energy. Then we get distortions in what is created. And the main thing that I think is that it's this piece that's missing, that piece that you brought in where you said, well, I want the same thing that you want. And that's what I want people to focus on. I want people to focus on our connecting points instead of our division points. But if we're always just focusing on what's destructing or what's bad or what's negative or what's falling apart or what we have to fear, fear is the antithesis of love. So how are we supposed to get to a place of focusing on the connecting point if we're focusing on the fear? It doesn't allow, I'm talking when we're in a format like this, what you hold space for when you move within and you're confronting your own fear and all, that's great. But when we're working in tandem with the rest of humanity, or when we're communicating about things with each other, it's so important that we focus on the connecting points, because that's a creative spark that actually provides an avenue for us to create something new, because the current algorithm in play is 100% focused on division and keeping things separated. Mm-hmm. But again, it's the death of an age with Scorpio, and it's Pluto territory, it's Mars territory, and that's, it's tricky area to navigate because we haven't gotten it right up to this point, have we? And it is a tall order. So how do we do that? That's just, something.
I agree with you about, bringing the light in. That's an interesting comment, Inez. Are you sure about that?
Well, see, that statement right there, that automatically is kind of a prison sentence, what you just said, Cal. I mean,
just say, is she sure about that? Is Alex Collier the only point of reference? That's all. And I don't think it was meant to be a prison planet either, but I'm just asking her the question. We're completely ignorant about a lot of things. Alex Collier is great. I love him. Okay. It's good to take his views into consideration. I'm just, one of the things I think about maintaining a positive attitude and the wholesale sort of mystique around look on the bright side, okay, that is so popular. And I understand where that comes from, to think positively about things. But when life gets real, there's a point when you're doing that where you're actually really enlightened by the power of love, and you're whistling past the graveyard.
I don't think that that's it at all. I'm not calling for whitewashing or spiritual bypassing. I'm not talking loving and lighting everything away. I'm talking about holding space for the difficult discussions like we're doing right now, which is absolutely shining a light on what's broken or where there's division points in society. But you have to find a way to move into the energy of transformation and rebirth, which means transmuting the energy. I mean, we had all those transmutational energies come up in the initial shuffle with those all majors. Yes, it's a very significant time, absolutely. And that's why the choices we make are so important. There's love, but love has many different shades. Love is just not pretending like everything is okay. There's tough love too. And I feel like the spirit that's more necessary to come forward at this time is certainly a sense of stoicism. But in terms of the truth, that's the big problem and the dividing point in the world today is that everybody thinks they have the sole access to truth, and they don't. Each of us has its little T truth. It's viewed through our own little window in the grid of reality. And we're looking through our own little reality tunnel, and we create our reality according to our views and what we funnel through there. So absolute truth, what is absolute truth? I mean, none of us really know for sure. This is very Discordianism, very chaos right here, but none of us know for sure. But the closest that we can come to it is that it's all one energy. And most religions agree with that. Most philosophies agree with that. Science agrees with that too. It's all just atoms, positive, negative, neutral energy. Everything's made of the same thing. And yes, this piece you brought in about, this future to come, this future to come, what's going to come in. We know from quantum physics, that with particles colliding, we may not be observing that things are already coming into that state of mass, manifestation, taking on form. But it's being created at all times. So this is just the way my brain works on it, Cal. And this is kind of it's the same thing you're saying. We just have different ways of saying it. And that a lot of that has to do with generationally. It can have, and as looking at it from globally, this can also be culturally, cross-culturally, according to somebody's religious beliefs. Again, they're just different windows in the grid that we view our reality through, and that creates our reality tunnel. Very Discordianism kind of view. Okay, so we're saying the same thing. It's like, yes, that's true, that homecoming or that is there, but we can't negate our responsibility in creating that. So we have to move forward and do what we can do in our reality. And for you, if that's, meditating, cultivating your spiritual center and getting on and communicating and having these kind of discussions and putting your word out there and making connections with people. And that's a beautiful thing. The piece that you hold, though, is that we all hold this piece, that we are all that energy. So wherever we're focusing our energy is what we're contributing to the ultimate creation. So if we spend our whole time just focusing on what's broken, which is obvious what's broken, right?
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
I know, Cal, I know. I'm giving an overview. If we spend our whole time, I'm not talking directly to you, I'm talking as a great whole here, okay? If we spend our whole time focused on what isn't working or what is broken, and if we don't start thinking instead of the division points or the destructive points, this is the creative side of chaos. But what are the connecting points? And how can we bring those connecting points together in such a way where it can be progressive or innovative or start to infuse a new kind of energy in what can come forward? And that is moving into the Aquarius energy. It's not about you and it's not about me. It's about I am. It's about the I am that runs through you. These are just costumes we're all wearing, playing out a simulation on the great stage of life, you know? And I agree with Robert Anton Wilson. If I'm going to be looking through a reality tunnel, and if I accept that I'm a creator and I have ultimate responsibility in the experience I'm living, then I'm going to create the most joyous, most fulfilling, most happy reality tunnel of unity in every single freaking moment that I'm living my life, regardless of whether or not the sky is falling or there's war in the world or this or that, because at least if I'm in this space where I'm actively building the light and building the foundation of what I would like to see the future be, what I'd like to see us collectively moving into, then we nurture a quality that people greatly underestimate, and that's passion and purpose. And with passion and purpose, that gives you the will to really move forward and build something on. And it's so necessary at this time, because there's the alternate story for the age of the Kali Yuga too. It's not just guaranteed that it's like, oh, then there'll be the golden age automatically. No, that's not necessarily the story. It's up to us. I mean, that's what it says in the Vedas. It's up to us. We can all just abandon it. We can all just say, well, whatever, you know, come what may. And then, you know, we fall into that state of apathy and we don't take responsibility. And it could go down a very different track. And we're at a very pivotal juncture in that journey. Absolutely, astrologically, and everything that you're bringing in, I mad respect. Like, I totally respect you as an astrologer and everything you're bringing in. I agree, those are the energies in play, you know, obviously. But it's all about what we do with it. Regardless of whether the old structure falls, it's sort of like a moot point. You can't resist what needs to fall. But we do have to be mindful of what we're building as we're moving through it, because it will become the foundation of the future, or the lack thereof. It's up to us, you know, as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's it. And when you're talking about, you know, going within, the more that you go within too, the more that people do that and they meditate. We can't worry about this person's not awake, that person's not, and even that is kind of like it's sort of like a judgmental mindset. I mean, who says what awake is, right? I mean, and it's up to each of us to follow our paths in our own time. But, you know, the more that people can do that and go within and get clear on their truth and get clear about where their passion is and where their purpose is and how they're meant to exercise that in the world, then that's a beautiful thing. That's productive too. And from that, people usually spring into action. Once you align with like your core truth, you know, and your passion and purpose, that motivates the forward motion, because eventually you go within. It's true, you know, if you get really clear within the self and you get aligned within the self and you align with the love and the creativity in yourself, well, eventually that energy is going to beg to be expressed outwardly. So it does move you into action. So, I mean, I want to look at bottom of the deck. Magician.
Mm-hmm.
It's Aries, the North Node, the initiator. I mean,
yeah, I picked that card up before I started. And it's interesting because, you know, you're talking about Eris. Eris is on the North Node right now.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, so she is the one who's the goddess of discord and chaos.
Yes. Yes. I know.
Right.
I work with her. I work with her.
How does she manage? How does she manage? Yeah, I was born with Eris on the moon.
I love Eris. It's not a negative energy. That's why I love Discordianism, because I have a different relationship with it than other people do.
Well, then chaos is your middle name.
I don't know about that, but chaos
you shouldn't have any problem with chaos if you're a Discordian.
I don't. I have no issue with chaos. I mean, I don't know if it's my middle name. I don't wear labels. Part of Discordianism is dropping your
figure. It was a figure of speech.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. Part of Discordianism is dropping your BS, your belief system. So I don't have any set beliefs. I'm open. But I do feel at this time that it's about you know, where my expression is of taking action is not necessarily going to be what everybody's, you know, expression of taking action is. That's for each
Well, you know what
individual.
they
Right?
say
So,
too. The only way to do is to be. Okay, so essentially it comes down to embodying
yeah,
whatever it is
and
that you
accepting whatever is showing up in the moment. You
and
know,
I think it's about embodying the truth. And when you talk about truth, you know, I get into
well,
this argument.
your truth, though,
Well,
your truth.
the frontispiece of the secret doctrine says there is no religion higher than truth.
But that's that absolute T truth, and nobody here has full cognitive access to that.
Nobody has access to it because every religion is pushing their own version of it.
And because we all have our little versions of it that are all based on our ego. That's the little T truth. So that's, and that is the solution. That's the connecting point, that we all have our little T truth. So it's stupid to argue about truth.
Oh,
Because
the truth, it's like love and truth and beauty and trust and harmony and peace are the 6 faces of God. Okay, so truth comes after love. Love is the prime mover. Truth cannot exist in its true form without love. And if it
absolutely.
does, then it makes things beautiful. Beauty is one of the faces of God. So, and those things are function. Oh shit! I gotta get this. Come on in. The guys came to fix the ants. Hang on.
Oh,
We live in the. Never mind. Hey, come on in. Hi, how are you? Yeah, I know. And I had these little guys in.
well, and I absolutely agree with that, you know, but that's the thing. What else is love? Love is freedom. And to quote Tom Robbins, love is an outlaw. It's a lively discussion. I like it. It's perfect. What are your thoughts, Angela? What are your thoughts? You've been contributing quite a bit over here. What are your thoughts? And you're a Scorpio. Thank you for everybody who's been sharing their comments and bringing in their thoughts. Kick this down here.
Okay, yeah, just bait it because it's not major, and I was thinking it might even go away. Sorry about that, Shannon.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I agree with that, Angela. I mean, and we're all indoctrinated too.
Oh, that's so great. Okay, so sorry about that. I was I thought he was coming a little later. Anyhow,
that's okay. It's alive.
No, it's like the ant people. When you live in the desert, see, this is where the ant people came from. And when you live here, the ants it's their territory. So what's been going on lately is it's so warm here and so beautiful, and it hasn't been raining. And what they do is they come out to get food right before it rains. So the fact that you see them means that it's going to rain. And this guy just showed up, and I said, look, I don't know what's up, but they're here again. And he said, well, he was so sweet. He said, I'll just put some bait out for them. I won't even charge you. This is why I love living out west. Okay, everything is so much less uptight here. So fucking great. Anyhow, so Shannon, I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm afraid about all these people who wanted to hear us talk about Scorpio.
Well, I mean, it is part of Scorpio. We can continue to talk about Scorpio. We can wrap it up.
This was a totally scorpionic conversation.
Well, I mean, why does it have to? And again, it's like it doesn't have to follow a track, right? So it's like this is where Scorpio wanted us to go, apparently.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm such a know-it-all. I'm such a know-it-all, and I have. Look, I'm on a different bandwidth than you are now too. Okay, you're about the same age as my kids.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make me superior to you at all, because just because
Oh,
you're older doesn't mean you're
I'm not taking any of that on. It's all
okay.
good.
But I
Yeah,
see that, okay, well, I have to kind of like step back here and at the same time have a little respect for what I know.
of
Okay.
course.
But I'm not here to override what I hear you saying.
No,
Um,
I don't feel that way at all. I don't feel that way at all. I feel
and
like,
I'm not, and P.S. I'm not Debbie Downer. Are you shitting me? It's a miracle that I'm fucking alive right now.
I don't
And
think
you
you're Debbie
talk about,
Downer. I think that we share a lot of
oh, thanks
similarities,
a
and
lot.
that
Thank you, sweetheart. Bye bye. Oh my God, thank God for him. I love him. Anyhow.
I don't think you're a Debbie Downer. I think we share some similarities in the way that
Yeah, we do.
we have a certain intensity to us.
No, we do. I mean, this whole thing, my progressed Sagittarius, our sons of this Sagittarian thing is going on with us right now,
Yeah,
which
and
is great. So
it's
it's
good.
fun.
It
So you
doesn't
see
offend
now,
me. It doesn't bother me.
there were people that went on my Ko-fi today and said, "Oh, I can't wait to hear you talk about Scorpio. My parents are Scorpio, blah blah blah," and we haven't. So okay, it is so Scorpio.
And will you look at this? See, look, Angela's saying, Cal, we're just loving this live stream.
See, I don't know what's up with people. No, I live in my little vacuum. You don't understand. You don't understand. This is the hardest thing in the world for me. Okay, is to be visible. It's like
No, look at our natural.
what was that? You just went away. Anyhow,
Oh, we went through a portal. We dropped off for a minute.
I just wonder, is anybody who's on here now have any questions about Scorpio, or am
That would be great. Yeah, let's
am I
do
being
that.
too Auntie Cal here?
Yeah, anybody want to ask Kelly your questions about Scorpio?
No, and I'm sorry, just don't want to disappoint anybody.
No, you're not disappointing anybody. It's okay for the conversation to be free flowing. That's what it's
No,
about,
well,
Cal.
I think the point is that we're going through a portal right now. It is, and the only thing that I have going on about let's see if we can plan the future is because if we approach it from that angle, whatever it is that our little pea brains are capable of imagining, okay, will totally block off all of the other infinite possibilities that are available to us now.
I smell what you're stepping in. I smell what you're stepping in. I get your point about that. Here's a little different way to reframe that. It's not about setting what the final product looks like per se. Okay. It's more about in the moment going, what is the action that's aligned with love right now?
Well, we're finding that out, you see. And I know what my job is now. I know that my job is just to be in love. And and doing that isn't about whistling past the graveyard. Doing that is like crashing through with my little spiritual machete the jungle of bullshit that comes up from moment to moment that makes it impossible for me to just be there. And as far as love is concerned, whoever it is that you bump into in the course of your day, just yes, namaste, I'm here too. And it's not like you have to make a big deal out of it, but you just need to be. Okay, and to embody whatever it is that you've been conjuring up for the past 75 years, instead of thinking that any of it exists outside of you. Okay, because it's all coming from you. Everything. Okay, and none of this would be here if you weren't here. None of this would be here if I wasn't here. When you begin to understand that it's all coming out from in inside someplace in you, and that somehow or other we're all made of the same stuff, and we are participating in this. And whatever this is at the moment is chaotic. And we're all having a response to the chaos.
See? And we're saying the same things.
That's right.
We're saying it in different ways. It's the same thing. That's what is so amazing to me about opening discussions like that, is that understanding that the labels are the things that separate us and keep us from being able to really, like, see how much we're the same as opposed to different. So Angela's bringing this in for you. So is there a connection with the owl? Because you said it was interesting when she brought in that you got that
It
owl.
was interesting to me because of some stuff I was doing today. And of course, owl, it depends on what system you're engaged in.
Yep.
So owl, the reason owl came to me is because I was interested. I was studying an aspect today it's a conjunction between Orius and Pluto. That is building right now. It's not 100% right now. It'll be next couple of months. This aspect is getting highlighted. And Orius is a hybrid creature who is half bear and half human. And in astrology, the story of Orius is that Zeus punished him. Orius was cannibalistic. He ate human flesh. And so Zeus came and punished Orius for being cannibalistic. And what he did was he turned him into a cross between an owl and an eagle. All right, which I haven't penetrated that mystery, but I know a little bit about owls. I don't know. They don't have any natural. Well, no, the owls are the only species that will eat skunks. Okay, and as far as eagles are concerned, we know what eagles are about. They can fly above everything and remain detached from it and see everything clearly. The owl is a wise old bird and sort of the archetype for a tremendous amount of wisdom. So I was trying to figure out earlier, why would the gods punish Orius by turning him into an owl and an eagle? And I think it was to give him the wisdom and the objectivity to see that, maybe feeding off of humans isn't really a good idea. I don't know. That's something I'm still working on today. Orius.
Yes.
So he's also there's a lot of hybrid creatures around right now. And if you've noticed, like, everybody's interest in transsexuality, and there are a lot of hybrid creatures around right now. Yes, I see. What does it say?
This is from the occult tarot.
Before you say anything, my understanding of it is that Orius comes in any situation where there are two conflicting matters of opinion, where there is no apparent resolution. And Orius makes it possible to find a way to resolve the conflict.
Interesting.
I don't know what it says on there.
Well, I'll say what that says there, but I'll just give my initial impression here that I'm noticing. See these hooks that he's holding? It reminds me a lot of these tools that are called kartikas. And Kali holds a kartika, okay, in some expressions and some drawings. And the kartika it's like a ritual tool, and we've used them in Panchakarma when I was doing Panchakarma, because we were doing a fusion of both Eastern Indian, Ayurveda, and Tibetan. And it's interesting because the Kartika is like, it's a blade, but it's got like a hook. It's got a hook on the end of it.
Mhm.
And so it's used to go and like, you go in like to do psychic surgery, I guess you could say, to hook like the roots of something that needs to be pulled out from the root. And that's what creates the transformation. And so I feel like, I think that's very much in alignment with what you're saying. You know, it's like when you look at where there's points of division, and we know, like Angela brought in earlier, that the big part of the problem is the indoctrination, which is true. I mean, and then you have to look at the indoctrination as that runs, of course, cross-culturally, as it runs within, you know, different religious systems, certainly our educational system, also just, you know, where we come from in life, and then even generationally. So it's quite a big thing to come to a place where we can find, I don't know if we ever come to a place of all mutual agreement, and it doesn't even need to, I don't feel. I feel that's not really the point. I think that the ultimate point is, like you were saying, is love, but it's like, what else is love? Love is also freedom. So it's this accepting and this spirit of like allowing, you know, people to be free to be who they are and to have their truths. It's not always about convincing everybody to feel the same way.
No,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
absolutely. Yeah,
no,
yeah,
never, never.
yeah. So it's like,
You know, everybody's got their own little song to sing. You
yep,
know, what do they say?
yeah,
We're all like little snowflakes here.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so I just think that that's kind of interesting, the hook imagery. And I think it goes right into what you were saying about Arise finds a way through. Well, we got to pull out from the root what's causing that division. Are we, and this is going diving deep into the Scorpio, like subterranean areas and those deep waters, right? It's when we're looking internally, because you brought that in, it's
Mhm.
about diving into the subconscious,
No, well,
making,
see, this is the thing. If you you see, everything that is, there's, you can find the whole universe in here.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that if you understand how to move into the heart, you can go as far into the heart as you can out into the universe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what happens when you're creating from here, uh, this is why I find it, you know, when I'm trying to get on the Scorpio track, but not really, okay? Because you know how everybody thinks Scorpio is so sexy. Scorpio's got a reputation for its sexuality because I don't care who they are, whether they're a snake or an eagle or a phoenix. The vibe with them is they are just hooked on the awesome power of the life force. They're hooked on trying to connect with that, and whatever that is God to them. So the interesting thing is that most people, you know, assume that Scorpios are sexy because there is a resonance in them that is really sort of drawn to whatever the ultimate life energy is. And when average people get around that, the only means that they have to interpret it with is sexually, because nobody's hooked them on to what happens when you get beyond that. And that business is interesting because, of course, you know what Wilhelm Reich says. They've been controlling humanity with our sexual energy for the last 13,000 years. And they killed him because he found out what it was really supposed to be used for. Okay, that's where the function of the orgasm comes in. So the spiritual thing and the sexual thing with Scorpio is always going to be there. And that's why a lot of them get into Tantra. I crack up at people that get into Tantra, like normal, average white folks. There's
Westernized, homogenized tantra.
also, it's like, you know, and I live in Sedona. Okay, when I've been here for about 20 years. It's funny, when I first got here, there was Scorpio friends. Totally, Scorpio friends are my favorite. But back when I first got here, they had all these little tantric things going on at different locations around town, and they all got busted and wound up in the headlines of like orange is the new black. Okay, so these people, God knows what they were doing. I don't know, but I know the clients that I've had over the years, and I've had a lot of clients, okay, who have been into this stuff, and every single time with the tantric couples, because back in the old days, I actually did couples horoscopes. I don't do them anymore. I refuse to do that shit. But the ones that would come to me, it was so interesting because it was usually all about one of them controlling the other one and having complete mastery over them. It had nothing to do with love. And if it was about sex, you know, I seriously kind of wonder how anybody was having a tantric experience, okay, because of the way these things get sort of screwed up by all of this. You know, the spiritual bypass is a weird ass place. There's so many casualties on it. You know,
It's so interesting because I have to bring this in, Cal, because you were wanting to know about this card, and it's the Hierophant in this deck is Arias, and they give a little different definition, like
I
me.
want to read it. I want to
It
hear.
says teaches astrology, the virtues of the stars and the houses of the planets and how to understand them, transforms men with dignities, finds favor with friends and foes. And it's interesting. Look at this. We got the polarities because here on the bottom of the deck is the Hierophant in reverse. So we got Hierophant upright, Hierophant in reverse, and it's like the duality. And I love how that pieced together like that, how that brings that in.
You know, you're much more facile with the cards than I am.
I love the cards.
No, I
love them. I love them.
I learn a lot from you.
I learn a lot from you too. That's why I like having you on, because it's like when you bring in these pieces with the astrology, it matches up with the archetypal imagery of the cards. It's like everything you're talking about right now. Here it is. Like it's in a picture form, you know, where people can see. And it also provides a bit of a key, you know, that thing of you know, you go inside to retrieve the keys, and it's like you talked about, then you can arrive in your heart, and that shines your light forward. Why? Because it moves you into passion and purpose when you're aligned with your heart, right? But what do we kind of have to drop first, you know? And that's kind of working with that chaos energy, the indoctrination, the programming, you know, because that Hierophant, especially in its distorted form, what's that about? It's about the power structures that are bent on oppression, that don't know how to hold the power and balance, right? It's you need an intermediary in order to access something that you already are, something you already possess within inside. And yeah, I mean, the Tantra piece, gosh, just for you to bring that in, it's like, it's so true. And the thing that bugs me about in the West with Tantra is people think that Tantra is all sex. It's not.
No.
Tantra is kriyas, Tantra is mantras, Tantra is different types of meditation, it's pranayama, it's yoga. It's not all about, ooh, let's get it on. And even when it's about that, it's not about using the sexual energy in that way. It's about rising the energy up to experience, you know, the elevation in consciousness, to have that awakening. So it's kind of funny, but in the West, that's what it's become. It's become it's just all about sex, you know?
It's pornographic.
This is what Angela said. So all Scorpios practice Tantra.
So no. Well, they, you know, God knows what they do. See, the whole things with Scorpio and sex is like, it's usually their deepest wound, and it really depends on if they have the sun or the moon or the rising sign in Scorpio. Okay, or for instance, I don't have the sun, moon, or rising sign in Scorpio, but I have my south node and 50 other asteroids conjunct my south node in Scorpio. So there isn't like a generic definition for the sign. And I do know, like, if the moon is in Scorpio, then you've got a more thorough expression of whatever that impulse is, because it is replicating all of the past life experience, and the archetype is etched in the cellular memory.
Mhm.
So when a person with the Scorpio moon comes into this reality structure, the Scorpio lesson, or the Scorpio school, or the Scorpio curriculum, is the one they know like the back of their hand. They could do it with their eyes closed. They have a lot of like cellular memories that are associated with everything that we connect with the sign. All right. And the interesting thing is that archetype was going to run that person's life until they're about 40, until they wake up and realize they're not supposed to be doing that lesson again. They already have their PhD in it. The moon sign is whatever you already have graduated from. You don't need to go there anymore.
Mhm.
Okay. If you got the moon in Scorpio, it means, okay, there were certain lessons from that experience that are worth holding on to. But the point is, you've already got your PhD in that shit. You really don't need to go there anymore. And so you
Interesting.
keep what's good from it. Okay. And you bring it with you. But the point is that the direction anybody is supposed to be moving in this life is towards the ascendant. The ascending sign is, to me, telling the astrologer, whatever it is that you think you're doing here in this life is totally connected to whatever is embodied in this archetype. So if you have Scorpio rising, it basically means that you came here to be a sorceress or a sorcerer.
Oh, well, what does that mean if that's where your progressed is moved?
That's what you're working on for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
So the progressed moon in Scorpio means you got a 2.5 year period where you're working on whatever the tantric aspects of your spirituality are connected to at that point.
That's interesting, because I just had like a huge shift right when my son went into, just like you, the 10 degrees Sagittarius. I also had a big shift where my rising went from Libra into Scorpio. My moon went from Sagittarius into Scorpio.
No,
My
it can't do that.
it
You're
shows that on my progressed chart.
okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, on my
Okay.
progress chart, my moon went from Sagittarius into Scorpio. My Venus went from Virgo into Scorpio. I
Mhm.
always had Mercury in Scorpio. That's in my natal. And then what other one? I had 5 things moved. Oh, my Mars went from Libra into Scorpio.
Mhm. Well, it's
So
interesting because
so
no,
how does that influence in a progression? I'm curious for those who have like progressions they're moving through.
well, if you got progressed Venus and it just went into Scorpio, relax. It's going to be there for the next 60 years.
Whoa. Ooh, that's good. I'm happy about that. I
Or
wasn't
just
happy
about,
with the Venus in Virgo placement.
Well, and I'm eyeballing it here. Like Venus progresses about a degree every 2 years.
Okay.
There's 30 degrees in each sign, so it's going to take about 60 years for that progression to be
Oh, I
over.
get to finish it off with a bang. That sounds good to me.
And going through, see what you do as each year. Oh, hi, Peggy Lowe. Look at you. She's so cute. Look how cute you are with your boyfriend there in the picture. Um, she's down in Florida. Um, no, for instance, okay, so yeah, yours is progressed. The progressions, what happens is the flavor that the archetype that you're born with. Okay, so if you were born with
Okay.
Venus and Virgo or whatever, so
Yes.
that stays there forever, but your experience changes you. Okay, so you learn more, we're getting into relationships to learn about love. We don't get
Mm.
into relationships to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we get into relationships to learn about love and to learn about ourselves.
Mm.
All right, and that's, if people understood that, it would be
Mm-hmm.
great. So what happens, you're born with, say, Venus in Virgo, and you spend the first 15 years or so of your life with it moving through that sign, because all of the planets begin to progress the moment you've taken your second breath.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they inch forward just a little bit, and all it means is that experience changes us. And so the body of Virgo energy that was on your Venus and your response mechanisms when you were born has been altered by time and experience by the time it progresses into Libra, and you spend X number of years with Venus progressing through that sign, absorbing the lessons of Libra, Venus and Libra, and that stuff gets filtered over the natal Venus. So not only do you have this Virgoan understanding of what love is, which basically Virgo's understanding of love is like you're made of it and you're whole and complete with it in yourself. And Libra's understanding of love is that it's, you know, it has something to do with another person. Okay. And when Venus is progressed into Libra, it means that you're finding out what the nature of being in a human relationship with another human being has to do with your spiritual unfoldment.
Okay, oh, you mean when it goes into Scorpio? When it goes into Scorpio?
No. What you're learning when Venus is passing through or is progressing through Libra, it means that part of the curriculum for that length of time is you are learning about the purpose that committed relationships have on the path to spiritual growth.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
And by the time Venus progresses into Scorpio, it really depends on your age. But in Scorpio, something else is going on. It's like there's a fusion there. Okay, where you are past whatever it is that passes between you on the human level, you know, in that cozy kind of, oh, good, let's piss and shit in the same toilet and fix supper and hang out together all the fucking time. You know,
Cal.
That has a lifespan, by the way.
Of course.
It gets old.
Okay, and I was wondering, what if you got Sun and Moon in Scorpio?
Sun and Moon in Scorpio, it means that you fucked up being a Scorpio in the previous life and you come back to do it again.
Oh.
She's not going to like that.
I'm curious about this, Cal. What does it mean? What would it mean to fuck up as a Scorpio? Could you give some ideas of like, just to decipher that? Like, what would that look like to not get it right as a Scorpio?
You were the Grand Inquisitor. That would be not getting it right as a Scorpio. Or, yeah, you were the Grand Inquisitor, or you were the guy that was turning on the gas at Auschwitz.
Oh, whoa.
Okay, or you were the little cretin who cleaned up the mess after Jeffrey Epstein and his buddies had an orgy. Okay, that's an afflicted Scorpio. Okay, that's anybody who uses their power that is in a way that is not good. All right, so it's overdosing of whatever it is that's on the dark side, and not being able to transmute any of that to light before. So there is a dark, but anyhow, the Scorpio moon is always, you've got some dark shit going on, and most of the time with the Scorpio moon, they come into this life with a cellular memory of it, but no details, because of course past life recall is all contingent upon the extent to which you evolve spiritually. Eventually, if you evolve far enough spiritually, you have full recall of every past life, but you don't just get to remember that shit because you think it might be entertaining. No.
Right.
Drumolo told me this.
Hmm.
He has full recall of all of his past lives.
Wow.
I don't.
I don't either.
I don't.
I've had weird little fragment pieces, and I'm like, they
I
give
have
me a certain feel, but that's about it.
Well, I have affinities, you know, and so it's good that we don't know that stuff, because what happens is it's just it's a power grab. It's like, oh, good, I think I'd like to know that. Yeah, well, guess what? You have to get to a certain place in yourself before you're even allowed to see it. So shut the fuck up. I can't stand people that get into that. Oh, I was Nefertiti in a past life. I said, okay, whatever.
You and
No one,
you and a bunch of other people.
you and everybody else, I know. No,
I have a question about that, what you brought in about if you have Sun and Moon Scorpio. So would you say, Cal, from your perspective and what you know about the Scorpio archetype, if that is the case, and if you didn't get the lessons of Scorpio in your last lifetime, would you say that in the current incarnation, the lesson then would be to learn how to hold power in balance?
yes.
Okay.
But the thing with it is what's going to happen. I have a Scorpio South Node, hella fucking low. Okay, the South Node is the past life inlet. Okay, so what happens? No, no. Don't go crazy with it. Okay, don't dramatize it, Angela. You were somebody who just abused the power of the life force, one way or another. You don't need to sorcerize it. Okay, you could have been one of those people who went around during the plagues and pull the gold out of the dead people's teeth. Okay, it's like don't glamorize.
Angela, don't feel bad, because I once got told by she was actually very excellent, an excellent medium, was on the ball about so much stuff. She told me it came through years down the road, and she told me that in almost all of my past lives, she said, it's a very new agey thing to say, Shannon, but for you it's true. In almost all of your past lives, you were an evil witch, and you did a lot of really bad things. And so your lesson in this life is to make sure that you really hold the power wisely, and that you're very mindful of how you use your powers. So don't feel bad. I'll sit in the flames with you, Angela.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. No, I pay through the nose. Are you shitting me? I pay through the nose, and it's been wonderful to have the opportunity to work through all that shit. And now, from this perspective, to say, thank God for it. Thank God.
Hey, I mean, if you think about it, we all screwed up in some way, right? We're still
everybody that's there. Well, we're all working off a ton of Atlantean karma. Anybody here now is just, it's all from that. And anybody that's waving the big lightsaber in this life was definitely one of the assholes in Atlanta. Okay, so there's no sense getting too worked up about how pure you are, because it's just everybody's sort of this is the bizarro world. Oh, Peggy, Neptune retrograde. Okay, so first of all, I'll tell you what. In a natal chart, you can't generalize about that stuff, first of all. Second of all, I would say everybody in a 10-year time span has that condition, Neptune retrograde. So there's nothing individual that you can really say about that. It's a generational condition that affected well, think of everybody on the planet for a period of 10 years having that condition. Okay, it basically means that batch of people came in to process whatever it is that the Neptune archetype does when it is in Scorpio. And Neptune in Scorpio is fucked up. Okay, because Neptune by itself is fucked up. Nobody knows how to do Neptune down here in the physical plane because Shannon doesn't agree with me. But I mean, in terms of the gravity wave, the gravity wave of the universe.
Hey man, don't you be telling me what I agree with.
Well, wait a minute. But in terms of the gravity wave of the universe, the Earth is the bottom of the barrel. Okay,
well, I know, but you know, when I think of the bottom of the barrel, I just it evokes a certain feeling for me personally. I think most people hear bottom of the barrel and they have a certain sense of what that means. And
yeah,
I think, you know, yeah, I've been there too. And I don't know, that's just not my experience of it. I've definitely been in spaces where I felt that, like, oh man, this is the bottom of the barrel, and then my life was really freaking miserable. And then instead I shifted my attitude to be more grateful that, well, hey, I'm here, and I'm not actually, to be honest with you, it was like getting initiated into a fairy tradition is what really changed that for me. It was the first time that I moved out of this kind of like sort of, you know, indoctrination into, the original sort of Christian faith I was raised in. And instead I was able to take on a more sort of like hedonistic view and go, oh, wow, wait a minute. No, this is a garden of earthly delight. And we have a physical body because we're meant to really experience all of our senses here and engage in this experience, and that it actually can be this like real pleasurable, beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's all. When you said bottom of the barrel, it just made me think like, yeah.
Okay, and I would suggest, by the way, my dear friend, go and look at Hieronymus Bosch's paintings of the Garden of Earthly Delights.
And oh, I've seen it. My friend used to have that painting. Actually, she had a replica of it.
Right in the bathroom.
And I loved it. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I love it.
Well, just go look at it again.
Well,
go look at it. What? Just go look at it again. It's interesting. I'm not
going to argue. It is interesting.
Because all I know is that we're not vibrating at a very high. Yes, and yes, the mountains and the sky and nature and all of that, the physics of it, I just love it. Mm-hmm. But the consciousness here, everything is consciousness. Mm-hmm. And it's a miracle to me that nature has even survived, given the fact that human consciousness is so extreme. There's something about human consciousness that's so extreme. And also too, we're not bad. We're ignorant. Mm-hmm. We're clueless about, we have no idea of what we're doing here. We have no idea of what's actually going on here. Okay, and the people that try to tell us about it don't know much about it either. So I don't know. I mean, and I don't know anything. I just know what I know. And yeah. Anyhow, I don't know where I was going with that, but where we were talking about Scorpio moons and, the relative intensity of any planet in this sign. There's always going to be a little sort of like perverted, like fucked up little twist to it. All right, or whatever we call that. It's a form of expression that is uniquely scorpionic. Is always a little bit X-rated, and I don't care if it's if you're a professor. Okay, the X-rated professor who's teaching kids about free energy at Harvard and has to lose his job because they don't want anybody to know about that stuff. Okay, or the guy that blew up the atom bomb, I forget his name. Or who is that guy, the famous heart surgeon? Okay, a lot of people Scorpios. Joe Biden's a Scorpio. Hillary Clinton's a Scorpio. Bonnie Raitt's a Scorpio. You want to look into the people that are sort of like all the Scorpios that are running around, and you see what kind of lives they've had, and you get a little bit of a picture of what happens to those people, or what happens when there's an overabundance of it. And the issue has to do when the moon's in Scorpio, the primary thing is that you've come in to this life with a huge wad of guilt about what you did, because you know what you did. Okay, that stuff is eternal and unchanging, and you're so ashamed of it that you never speak a word of it to anybody. And the trip with the Scorpio moon is for the person to begin to understand that it's really okay for them to start unloading whatever that stuff consists of, because if you keep it all inside, you could have the perfect life operating smooth as smooth as silk on the outer level, but the internal stuff is always going to be there, and it'll run the outer piece from within until you deal with it. I have a sister with a Scorpio moon, and it's so interesting because it's like her entire life is a big sunny day. Okay, and the dark piece is there too, but I don't know, what is she, 70 something right now? She's never addressed it. You know what I mean? She's never addressed it. And so the way it happens, okay, when you don't address it, is it leaks through the cracks one way or another. So how it shows up is not necessarily in the perfect little world that she's sort of surrounded herself with, but it's showing up with her kids. Okay, and it's like, oops, okay, the bête noire is coming out over there because nobody looked at it here. So the thing with the Scorpio moon is to reckon with your dark side in a constructive way and understand that it's safe. It's important for you to be able to share all of that stuff with people now, because there is so much they can learn from you. Just hearing you sort of talk about your experience, okay, and that potentially you have the opportunity to transform that in this lifetime, because whatever is going to transform is going to happen on the ascendant. And it's a sign on the ascendant that says, okay, yeah, you fucked up in a past life, but you're going here now. So why don't you reckon with all that bullshit? Okay, and just process it and get used to having yourself be okay with it. And then as soon as you're out of the woods with your memories of what you did or didn't do in the past, let's go over here, because you've got Aquarius rising, and P.S. you're an avatar now. All right, so let's get on with that show and stop, glorifying the fact that you would have fucked up previous life. Yeah, the connection between the moon and the ascending sign is the key to everything. And the sun sign is the solar energy, or the free energy that the soul uses to bring whatever the past life story was into the next iteration. Okay, so the Scorpio moon and the Scorpio sun, the Scorpio moon is, okay, so the Scorpio lesson didn't get integrated constructively in the previous life. And it could take any extreme. I mean, she could have been the Grand Inquisitor. She could have just been some, leprous flunky who went around during the plagues and pulled the teeth out of the dead people that were laying on the cots and the carts all around Paris and wherever it is that they were having the plague. Okay, it could be anything, or they could have just been anyhow. Scorpio moon, when you get the sun in Scorpio on top of the Scorpio moon, it's like, okay, let's try it again. We're going to float whatever it is that you didn't get right into this upcoming experience, and we're going to provide you with the Scorpio fuel, or the solar energy, or the free energy that you're going to use to carry your karmic and your spirit forward into whatever it is that you're evolving into now. We're going to use the Scorpio filter for that. You've had some previous life experience with it. Now, okay, we're layering it over all of this to see if you can begin to understand how to use it for the good of mankind instead of for your own selfish parasitic purposes. And depending on how that goes, it's going to come out on the ascendant. Everybody thinks the ascendant is, they say, it's how you look and it's your personality. No, it's not. It's what you came here to do.
Hmm.
And
So is it the more outer, like the outer expression of life and like fulfilling that?
no. And everybody thinks it's that too. It's not that. I've got Cancer rising. I'm the most half-assed mother on the planet. Okay. So my purpose, okay, is very much connected with if you look at Cancer, okay, the average person will say anything about Cancer. Oh, you're maternal. You like to bake cookies. You're going to have lots of babies. You're going to be a good mother. You're going to be all about the home and blah, blah, fucking blah. Okay. It can express it that way in its most fundamental form or its most mundane form. It will show up like that. Okay. But ultimately, you've got to consider things a little bit more deeply. 13,000 years ago, we entered the age of Leo. Okay, 2,500 years before that, we were moving through the age of Cancer. So approximately 16,000 years ago, we were moving through the age of Cancer. Well, guess what was going on at that time? All of the cultures, the big megalithic cultures, were all tribal and matriarchal. Okay, so anybody with Cancer on the ascendant didn't come here to bake cookies and show up at the yard sale. They ultimately, the highest expression of the Cancer ascendant is that you came back to remind everybody how to return to the ways of the tribe. And returning to the ways of the tribe involves understanding that I am you, you are me, you are my sister, you are my mother, you are my father, you are my brother, you are my grandmother, you are my child. We are not separate from each other. There's only one heart beating through everything here. And we've forgotten those ways, even though people like, I mean, I'm out west, there's this crawling with pretendians. We don't understand it anymore because when they brainwashed us, they shoved us into the whole concept of the nuclear family. Okay, they took the tribe out of it. And the nuclear family, of course, anybody will tell you, I might piss a lot of people off by saying that. Everybody says, family is everything. No, it ain't. The tribe is. Okay, and the reason I know that family isn't, so we're giving you the tools, are you going to get it right this time situation? Yes, that's about it. You just find out more about who the hell you are and watch yourself and watch how easy or hard it is to remain in integrity. But no, the nuclear family thing is one of the biggest ruses. Okay, it's like the same one, the other biggest ruse is marriage. Anyhow, we all fell for it. But, the whole idea of like understanding that there's a gap between, I've done so many, half the people I do chart are allergic to their family. All right. And nobody understands that. And the people that I talk to are allergic to their family because of the party line on family is everything. They can go up to 75 years still trying to get a cup of coffee out of that Coke machine. And they can't let go of the concept that it's maybe the love that you're supposed to get from life is coming from outside of that one little spigot. Anyhow, I'm getting a little evangelical here.
It's interesting, right? As you brought in the family, you got the 10 of Pentacles in reverse.
Oh, Yeah, yeah, that's basically, yeah, you're allergic to your family, or yeah,
It's
because
interesting what this card says, though, on the bottom here. This is the Angel Tarot. It says inner and outer work helps one keep their job and protects against disasters, but it's in reverse. So this is like there's no stability without first, doing, yes, inner work, but also the outer work is required to bring things in balance and build a new foundation for ourselves and in our life. But I thought it was really interesting how that came in right as you talked about the family piece.
Mhm.
And I want to clarify with the Garden of Earthly Delight. I realized as we were, as you all were talking, that the picture, the painting I was thinking of is a different one. It still has the same title. The one I was talking about is a fairy painting. I know the one you're
Oh,
talking
okay.
about. I know the one
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah,
about now.
with all
It's still
the
beautiful in
little,
a weird way.
with all the little weird ass creatures looking up their assholes blowing
Yeah,
smoke.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
bizarre. But you know
yeah,
what?
yeah.
I don't know. There can be a beauty in absurdity too, and
No,
maybe that's
no,
part of it, right?
you see, that's the thing. That's what I'm getting at. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay. P.S. It's nuts here. It's and if there is, if there is no religion higher than truth, it's good to know that
Yeah.
it's nuts here, and you have to find the light in it. And I think that's what's up with Scorpio, is that they're basically trying to find the light. You know about the Kogi mamas? Do you know anything about them?
No. Mm-mm.
The Kogi mamas are they're the high priests of the Mayan tribes.
Mm.
All right. They've been around forever. They were the high priests of Atlantis. Okay. And the Kogi mamas are like, they live in the highest realms of the Santa Marta Mountains in South America. Um, the Kogi mamas are interesting because they they live completely isolated from everybody else, and they are the leaders of a tribe. Okay, the Kogi tribe, but the mamas are recognized prior to their birth. Okay, so when one of them is about to be born, this is known, and at the moment that they are born, um, the baby is taken from the mother and raised until they are 9 years old in a cave. Uh, yeah, the heart of the world. Yeah, and there's the BBC did that documentary back in the early '90s. It's a documentary of the Kogi Mamas. The reason I'm hooked up with them is because Drumvalo was deeply involved with them for a very long time, and so I've actually, anyhow, I know a little bit about the Kogi Mamas, but anyhow, they're the high priests of the Kogi tribe are taken into this cave. Well, it used to be a cave. Now it's a building that they all go to, but they stay there till they're 9, and they're taken care of. And there are certain things that go with raising them, but they're raised in complete and total darkness.
Mm.
And at the age of 9, they let them out into the world. And what happens to them is that their spiritual centers got developed before their brains got too filled with bullshit.
Mm.
And they can see in the dark. And one of the things about the Kogi is that they, as far as they are concerned, because everything, it's a lineage, okay, that gets passed down, has been passed down steadily since Atlantis. All right, so their understanding of themselves is that they are the ones who are keeping the world spinning. And they came out with that video in the early 90s because they were going in to themselves and seeing all this stuff that was going on with the world. And they finally got in touch with Drumvalo and said, hey, we see you doing all this stuff, and we want to connect with you because we have to tell you that if something doesn't change by the eclipse of 1999, and it's all going to be over here. But the one thing about those people is what they know, and this has a scorpionic purpose to the conversation, is because what they taught me, okay, is that the only way to see is in total darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have to be able to go there first before you can access the light. That's all. Ooh, I don't know who that Mumia.
Okay,
Mumia.
so the hermit.
I Bamia.
And you're just talking about you have to, go within before you can get to light what comes through with the hermit. It says alchemy and transformation rules natural events and helps with spiritual progress. But look what it came in with. It came in with death, the Scorpio card.
Oh my God, huh?
Right, I'm telling you, like it's been all majors coming out. Healing, endings and rebirth, influences health and longevity. God, the end of the universe, like the symbolism here with the hourglass. What would you say is like the most significant Scorpio transit or aspect that's in play right now?
Pluto's squaring Scorpio right now.
How long is that going to be playing out?
20 years.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the people who were born in the early part of Scorpio right now they're getting big lessons in whatever the truth is. Oh, Cancer. Hey, Kim. All right. No wonder we get along. I was thinking about you today. Thinking about your Scorpio parents and realizing, oh, that must be why she likes Jackson Brown so much. Anyhow, a little distraction here. I don't know what we were talking about before we got to that, but anyhow.
We were talking about Scorpio square Pluto. Yeah.
Scorpio, essentially that's what's going. So right now, anybody who's born on the early degrees of Scorpio, and that would be, say, between October 23rd and between October 21st and say maybe October 25th, or push it up to Halloween, whatever. Because when Pluto makes a transit, okay, most planets are not going to have an impact until the transit is exact. When Pluto makes a transit, it is in play 5 degrees before it's exact. Okay, so by the time the Pluto transit is exact, it's over. So the lesson's done. And so right now, anybody born in the early degrees of Scorpio is having a Pluto square, which essentially is like a life or death thing where you get to be yourself right now. And if you can't handle that because you're too afraid, or you think you're going to lose whatever it is that matters to you, if you do decide to be yourself, then you're going to get stuck here without evolving into whatever it is that you actually came here to do. It's a death and rebirth aspect. And as Pluto sort of moves deeper into Aquarius, every other person who's born with a Scorpio sun is going to experience a moment of truth where they have to make a decision about who they really want to be when they grow up. Now, a lot of people who have, people who are born with any aspect between Pluto and their sun, there's always going to be a point in their life that they're going to come to where they have to decide if they're going to keep doing what mommy and daddy expect them to do, or if they're going to just sort of step out of the box and be themselves. Mm-hmm. And you never know what the person is going to do. What it does is sometimes it surfaces literally, and it can kill a person. That's a lethal transit. But it doesn't have to be lethal if you understand how it's working metaphysically. And basically the question is, okay, you've got to step out from behind the door Now, this is your chance. And if you don't do it, I don't care what it's going to cost you, but if you don't do it, there are going to be repercussions. And then, of course, that always depends on how old you are. Because if it's happening to a 6-year-old kid, it's a little bit different than it would be if it was happening to a 40-year-old man. All right. And with a little kid, in a little kid's chart, that will show up as shit going on with the parents. Because the kids are basically living out the parental script until they're at least 14. Everybody divorces their parents metaphorically at 14. And that's the result of a Saturn transit.
Mm.
And it's interesting. I always say, well, what do you, that's not a nice thing to say. I said, no, it's actually a true and good thing to say. Because if you bump into any 14-year-old kids that still want to hang out with their parents, they need a therapist. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, there has to be that moving into that sense of individuation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here, you got a little message from Peggy Lou here.
I'm a Cancer too, Leo rising. Oh, I love this gal. She took a class with me a bunch of years ago. I don't know when it was, but no, I love Peggy. She's down there living in Florida with the alligators and stuff. And a lot of old biker boyfriends. She's got a bunch of men she takes care of. And Peggy's great. I love her.
Alligator medicine's all about digesting things. So alligator to come in. I'm curious if you would be interested in playing off something that I kind of wanted to bring in, but with you kind of like speaking to each point in terms of how it relates to Scorpio and the energy in play. Would you be open to doing that with the I Ching?
Yeah, sure. If I can think fast enough. Yeah.
You can think. Come on.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was curious about just like because there's a lot of transformational energy in play, and just in talking to people, all the time, a lot of people are struggling with it, and they're feeling like they don't want to just sit in the energy. They want to work with it constructively, right? So they can move into that transformational energy. And so I've been casting the I Ching because I feel like the I Ching's a really valuable resource just for navigating the changes in life. It's the book of changes. Mm-hmm. And when you brought in the piece about Shiva and the way it was aspected this week with the astrology, I thought that it was just kind of an interesting point to bring in, since it does come from the Far East and is something that was used by generals and, emperors at that time to find a pathway through some pretty, steep challenges. But I'd love it if you could kind of like, I'll bring in what came in for the collective, and then if you could kind of frame it within the Scorpio archetype, I think that would be kind of cool to have an understanding of.
Let me see if I'll do the best I can.
I think you'll do great. So what came in is that we got, and it's interesting because you brought in that piece. So I cast the I Ching for the collective for just where we're at right now and moving through this energy and how to best flow through that series of transformations and changes so we can be in harmony with the Tao. And what we got was number 37, Chia Jen family, okay? And we had 2 changing lines in the upper triagram in the 5th and 6th position, which changes it to Mingi, brightness hiding, which is all about also kind of like what you're talking about, the need to decrease to increase, like to do that internalized motion to sort of like align oneself, come to one's own truths, have the subconscious make conscious, arrive in the heart space, all that. And for the hexagram Chia Gen family, the action is support. Okay, so forming networks of support is the way through. That's the action we need to take to align with our sources of support in terms of connecting with kindred. And it's funny because it's about connecting with those people who feel like family, which doesn't necessarily have to be family within the framework as we've been indoctrinated to see it, but more like soul family, like those people that remind us of who we are, right? The Huagua, the hidden influence is 64. Before completion, prepare. And yeah, so this says, and what came in with this one is, it said, the master said there is no greater joy than to examine oneself and be sincere. So I love how it kind of like highlights that point that you brought in there. And for the lines number 5, it says, the sovereign's benevolence extends to the household, equals worry not, auspicious, changes to grace. Because one who guides the gathering is trusted, all prosper. Out of disorder arises ideal conditions for union. And then the 6th line is relationship founded on mutual respect equals in the end comes good fortune, changes to 63. After completion, lead by example. Everyone does their part and the entire team prospers. And then it goes further to say, what is happening within will be reflected without. So it's like cosmic mirror kind of energy there. And it's interesting because the after completion hexagram, it has the visualization of a fox crossing a stream. And the goal is for the fox to get to the other side without getting any of its body wet. And there's this continual piece that's kind of like illustrated throughout that hexagram's journey, that if we keep looking back, that's when we can run into trouble. And that's when the fox will slip into the water and all will kind of be lost. So in the framework of that, I know it's a tall order, but I know you can do it. I'd love to just hear you kind of like translate that in Scorpio terms so we can kind of understand how to grok the energy of that hexagram a bit.
It's too much for me.
Uh,
I'm just being truthful. It's like a lot of shit. And I actually think that it would be redundant. But because at the moment I can't remember what you started to say in the beginning. You said so many things, so I don't know how to layer. No, you said so many things. You didn't do anything wrong.
Okay, let's look at this. In terms of support, how could we use the energy of Scorpio?
What I think I take out. Let me just say what I take out of it. I think what's going on right now is the whole importance of the family and understanding that the family and the support, okay, it has a different meaning than we attribute to it, because the family is the human family. And if we understand that we're trying to create support for whatever the future is now, that support will come when we understand that we were all connected, and it is the connection to the human family that will bring about whatever it is that all of us need to do right now in order to move into the next iteration of our experience from a place that is blessed. That's all. And anybody else, anybody that we're talking to or that is listening now could probably sum that up for you, but that's how I see it. She's still thinking, if you knew about alligators, you would, their oldest form of consciousness on the planet. And alligators were very much a part of the initiation practices of the Egyptians. I guess. Yeah.
Yes, they were. I know about that one. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's kind of, alligator is kind of a good totem for the Scorpio energy in a way, especially with that piece you brought in about the initiatory energy, because they used to have the priestesses and the priests for their initiation was to jump into the Nile with the crocodile.
The crocodiles. That's the final initiation.
Similar medicine, a little different, but similar.
It's the same thing. It's the last initiation. The initiation process is for the Sumerian and Egyptian women in particular. It took place over a course of 12 years. We've had that conversation, right? Okay. So if you didn't make it through the first year, you didn't get to go to the second year. You know what I mean? It wasn't like there was no such thing as honorable mention. You either did it, but if you did make it to the 12th temple, the last year of initiation was spent preparing the consciousness of the initiate for the graduation ceremony, which always took place on the 26th of July. And it was in the 12th temple, which if you study the Temple of Man books, there are 3 of them, you can see the photographs of this situation. And the people that take us on tours of Egypt don't talk about these things. I don't think they even know, okay, what happened in those temples. But in the 12th temple, there's a basement area that's still left, okay, underneath all the columns, that is a maze. And when the priestesses who had gotten through the 12th level of initiation had to prove that they were conscious enough to assume that role, they would dive into, they waited for the end of July to have the initiation, because at that time the waters of the Nile rose. And so what happened is at their graduation, the priestesses, the initiates, would jump into the maze, and their job was to swim through it and come out alive. And their consciousness had to be developed to the point where they actually could do that. It wasn't necessarily the Olympics or physical prowess. It was something else altogether that was required to get through this. They made it more difficult because whenever the waters of the Nile rose, that maze filled up with alligators too. So the women who were being initiated into the priesthood would have to figure out how to get through the maze and circumvent the alligators too. So you did not get to be a priestess unless you could do that. So you either died or you did it.
I think that has absolute
very
applicable. It seems to translate to the Scorpio energy in the same way, because it's kind of like, it makes me think of that quote from Nietzsche where he talks about, staring into the abyss and being aware of, if you stare too long into the abyss, you become the abyss. And so I kind of like that as like an archetypal imagery of, we're all collectively going through an initiation right now through Scorpio's gateway, which requires us to dive really deep, into that subconscious terrain where maybe there's a lot that's taboo to be integrated, and there's a lot that can't be seen, and it's sort of like the sharper edge of the sword of truth. And bringing that back up to consciousness does require us to go through somewhat of an inner labyrinth of sorts. And how do you get through that? By being able to maintain a certain focus, I feel, that allows you to have no fear is really what it's about. We know that, like, even when swimming with, like, for example, another, prehistoric, creature on the planet, sharks, okay, for example, it's all about not being in an agitated state, like being able to do so very, very calmly. And I know this from my own experience, because I had an experience in Maui where I swam with a tiger shark. It wasn't by choice, but I know that when I go into the ocean, I'm always taking a risk of being on their territory. And I was snorkeling, and it wasn't a big one, but it came and it swam right underneath me. We were separated maybe by about 4 feet, and it was like parallel with my body. And it was under 5 feet. It wasn't like a really big one, but it was enough to make me take notice, because they're known to be aggressive. And that there's a whole thing with understanding shark medicine, and it's kind of the same thing with working with crocodile medicine or alligator medicine. I'm I'm speaking from more of like a native totem perspective right now. And that's that it's their territory. So they're very much defensive of their boundaries. And it's about respecting the boundaries and respecting that medicine, that you don't kind of like trample over that. And that's where most people make a big mistake, especially with sharks. But you know, you also got salty croc energy, right? That is also found in the ocean. Okay, so I love this. It plays in both. And in terms of crocodile or alligator, they're also a very temperance kind of medicine, because people often think about them in the water, but they also live on land. So they got that duality where they're like a foot in both worlds, like being able to dive deep into the subconscious territory of Scorpio, but still maintain one's grounding, like not do like Nietzsche said, where you look so long into the abyss that you become it and then you end up lost at sea, but being able to dive deep and like pluck that jewel, you know, that treasure from the bottom of your consciousness, rise it up to conscious awareness, and be like that high priestess, you know, navigating that labyrinth to find the way through. But quickly, I'll just like surmise my story. So when I saw this shark underneath me, my first reaction was, okay, stay still. So I just stayed still because it's under me. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, a shark will always come up from under you if they're going to attack. It's kind of their preferred mode for, you know, getting something. But I just stayed really calm. And I knew, I was like, okay, I just went onto their turf. Like, they're patrolling their turf. So I need to be very aware. The next thing I did was I sort of scanned the water to see if there were any other sharks. Because in general, sharks won't attack unless they're in packs. If they're in a pack, you better watch out. You could really be in trouble. So I just scanned, are there any other sharks around? No, there's not. Okay, so I'm just going to stay calm. I'm going to respect the medicine. It's time to kind of like turn around. So instead of kicking and being agitated, I started focusing on my breath. I just slowed everything down. I became very present. That kind of reminds me of the same thing like a priestess would have to go through with going through a crocodile maze, you know, or going through an alligator maze and coming out the other side. You can't do that agitated. There's a certain presence required, right? So I kind of just, I didn't kick. I just very gently used my hand to turn myself around, and I started just super gently breaststroking. And I didn't look back, which, you know, you'll often hear on these videos that come out now on social media, like, oh, you've got to stare down the shark. But I'm like, well, no, but if you understand shark medicine, like actually you're on their territory. So if they're there, they're letting you know, hey, you're crossing a line. So I turned around, and then what I didn't anticipate was that the shark turned around with me, and it again maintained its distance. Okay, so it's interesting experience of, and maybe this ties into Scorpio in some way for it to come in. It was also respecting my boundaries. So I was respecting its boundaries, but it was respecting mine as well. It maintained a distance, but it swam parallel with me all the way to shore. It's like it escorted me. And then it left me. And it was actually this really beautiful experience of coming into this place of presence of normally, I think it is tying into the Scorpio in this sense, this place of presence where it really illuminated for me. It's like, oh, you know, I could have this like preconceived notion that this is dangerous, this is going to attack me, I'm in trouble, and I could have moved into a fear space, and then who knows, I would have agitated the shark, disrupted its boundaries, and I could have been toast. I mean, tiger sharks are known to be one of the more aggressive forms of sharks. They're known to attack more often. We recently had that, just, you know, this past year, you know, somebody was lost to a tiger shark over in the Red Sea. So, you know, this piece coming forward very strongly, and maybe that's something we need to keep in mind as we're moving through Scorpio. It's like, yeah, you may find some taboo stuff coming forward. You may find things that go bump in the dark, you know what I mean? But it's like, what can be done with that doesn't necessarily have to be something that's frightening. It can be freeing. It can be releasing.
No, you bring it to the light.
Yeah, and you can bring it to the light by like you're saying, being very present with it, right? Like being present, turning within and being present, just like, okay, I'm not going to try to change it. I'm holding this space for it. I'm
Right.
allowing it to like kind of move its energy through me. And then you find that it kind of like moves parallel with you. And it also
I
helps
like
guide
that.
you to the, yes, I agree. I agree, Peggy. That is the difference between alligator and crocodile medicine. Absolutely. Alligators
Really?
are way more docile. There's a little bit more of a sharper edge with, I'm really into totem medicine. I really get into that. So,
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do too.
yeah, Crocs they are a little bit, and there's a little bit sharper of an edge, and they're also they got like there's a lot that kind of there's certain similarities between crocodile medicine and like whale medicine in the sense of like ancient wisdom, Akashic records kind of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a sharper edge.
Oh,
But
they've got everything.
they both
Yeah.
hold the duality, the
They have
balancing
the
point.
they have the memories of the whole planet.
Yeah. Yes. Let me see
Alligator.
what this is. I want to see what she said here. Inez said, my guess is those Egyptian priestesses were trained in ways of shifting into gamma brainwave states that allowed them to navigate the waters without even having to think about. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so too, because I think that's why the shark and all that parallel came in, because it's a similar thing.
sure, yeah.
It's
That's
being
pretty
able to be
wise.
in
That's
that
pretty wise.
place where, well, if you want to go way out there where you're recognizing it's all one energy. So if you can harmonize with the energy and not
Sure,
be
yeah.
divisive with it.
Well, that's why I think it's good not to make anything bad,
Yeah, I agree.
all right, or dark. It's like there's nothing wrong with bad and dark. It's just what it is.
And how we relate to it,
Yeah.
what it
See,
activates in us.
you knew, okay, you could have gone into fear, but you knew enough not to. You
Yeah.
see, other people don't know enough not to go into fear. And so the whole question of how do you process fear? How do you cope with it when it comes up? And how do you acknowledge it so that you can work with it and say, okay, how do I turn this into, love? How do I turn this into harmony? How do I not get carried away by the fear, because it doesn't help.
Now you're cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal, is figuring out ways to like
So I'm not
move through it.
afraid. I'm not afraid of anything that's going on right now. There's
Mhm.
nothing to fear. This is why we put candles inside the fucking pumpkins.
Yeah.
Okay, because the darkness or the light at this time of year can only be found by going within. Okay, the jack-o'-lantern thing is older than time, and it was done on purpose to remind everybody that you have to go inside to find the light right now.
Yeah.
And it's there too.
Well,
Oh,
and I think that's the piece, Callis, is like, I'm not afraid either.
I'm
But
not afraid.
and I know you're not afraid. I mean, you're
This
tough.
is what we came for.
Right. But that's kind of the thing, is it's like, just from talking to people, like there's a lot of people that are really afraid though. And that's the thing, is it's like, I feel like those who aren't afraid or who have gained certain tools, it's like so important that we do things like this, where we talk and we have discussions, and we put it out there, where we provide some way of like navigating that terrain, because not everybody can just leap into that mindset where they're like,
No.
they need support, they need that support, and it's that piece of kind of like, we're all walking each other home, no one left
Yeah.
behind, you know what I mean? So it's sort of an interesting time. But for me with that, it's like, I've had I've been thrown in life-threatening situations, actually, a number of times in my life, unfortunately. And for me, it's just something I've kind of was just born with. I'm really good in an emergency situation. And
You
nobody
seem
really,
very scorpionic to me.
well, I mean, my Pluto is right up on my ascendant. So in my natal chart, and I have my Mercury in Scorpio in the house of Taurus in my natal chart.
I'd love to
So,
see, I should do your draconic chart.
yeah, well, I'm third, October 13th.
No, I have. I should do. Well, I'll do it, and maybe we could talk about it next time. The
Yeah,
draconic
that would be
chart.
cool. But yeah, so I mean, for me, it was just an automatic thing. You know, I didn't have to learn that, but I think like sort of fusing together what you brought in about going within, I think the best thing that people can do at a time like this, two things. I think it really is about working with the, like that 9 degrees Sabian symbol
Hmm.
of Libra for moving through this lunar cycle in particular,
Hmm.
about the three masters in the art gallery: habituation, social, and mental.
Hmm.
Um, and that does involve going within, because you have to go within and you have to look at where are my habits kind of like feeding my focus on the fear, right? Or are my focus on where I'm stuck? And how can I just shift my focus through my daily habits and maybe how I engage socially, or my family, the people that I call my support team? Like, am
Hmm.
I hanging around with other people who kind of like bring me down, or lower my self-esteem, or are fear mongering, or tell me ways that I will never be able to do something? Or can I switch that up? Can I start aligning with people who maybe encourage me to
Hmm.
move forward in a different sort of way, where at least even in moving through the most challenging terrain, I can feel like there's some kind of at least growth happening, right? Growth happening in my life, and I'm feeling better in the way I'm navigating the challenges. And then, of course, with the mental, what are our thoughts we're holding and what do we focus on, you know?
Oh no, I know. It's funny. I'm
I'm
actually very childlike most of
Jade,
the time.
unfortunately, I have no way to do that because it's all done on individual ends. I wish I could make hers louder. She has her mic system that she has. There's no
Yeah,
way for me to turn up Cal's mic. Only Cal can turn up her mic.
can you turn it up now? Is that okay? I thought it was up.
I'm hearing you fine. I'm
Yeah.
hearing you fine, but I don't have any ability to control that on my end at all. Just about the
Yeah,
system.
no, I know. Yeah. Turn her volume up.
Yeah,
That's
they
what
want
you
you
want.
to turn up your volume, but
It's up.
it's only something you can do on your end. It all depends on,
It's up.
I can hear you fine, Cal.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe
yeah,
it'll turn out good on the replay. Who knows?
I think it's fine. I can hear you just fine.
Yeah.
You know, mine is louder, but that's just my mic system I have. I don't know what to say about that. But yeah, let's see if there's any. What is a draconian chart? Inez wants to know.
The draconic chart is the chart of the soul. So the chart that you go to when you go to an astrologer who is, there are many different systems that people use. So the tropical chart is what you're looking at when you go to an astrologer who just, and that is the chart of the personality. Okay, so it basically it is a blueprint for whatever the personality has to contend with. Uh, the draconic chart is derived from Edgar Casey's work.
Hmm.
Edgar Casey did horoscopes for people, and his charts didn't look anything like what other people were doing. He was using a different system, and so the system that he uses is a recalibration of the tropical chart, where all of the positions, all of the points, and all of the house cusps are recalibrated. And they are recalibrated according to the distance in degrees um, between the planet or the point or the angle and the Aries point. It brings up a completely different chart. It is the map of the soul's purpose for incarnating.
Hmm.
Is this and transits to the draconic chart are basically points in time when, regardless of what the personality has to deal with down here in the world where we are doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, transits to the draconic chart will, if they're difficult, will show that you're going through like a very powerful spiritual test that is more related to your soul and its evolution than it is to whether or not you're going to find a boyfriend.
Mhm.
You know, and most people think people, the Scorpios in their, Scorpios in their poisonous bite. Scorpions have the capacity to sting. Okay, they're going to sting you, but they can also kill themselves. They can self-immolate. And it just means that the sting of the scorpion can either enlighten or kill you. And you have to, if you're dealing with a Scorpio, you have to know which side of the bite that you have to process. That's all. So there are afflicted Scorpios and there are conscious Scorpios, and it's good to know the difference between the two. Afflicted Scorpios are very they're a lot of times they're really greedy and extremely manipulative and petty, and they very often sort of disguise themselves with very charming sort of abilities, and they're often very intelligent and very gifted, but it doesn't exempt them from being scumbags. And then the higher kind of Scorpio, you run into them every now and then. I know Drumvalo has Scorpio on the ascendant, and he's a classic example of a Phoenix Scorpio. Mm-hmm. My sweetheart had a Scorpio North Node on his ascendant, and he was a Phoenix. He was the love of my life. This guy, he's dead now, but anyhow, no, that he had developed the technology to clear up all the pollution on the planet, and they killed him back in 2007.
Mm.
Okay, and now they're using his technology to do other things. Okay, in the same way that they took Reich's technology, and who's Tesla's technology, and they totally sort of manipulated it for exactly the wrong things. I laugh at people who are running out to buy electric cars. If they only knew.
Mm-hmm.
It's like driving around in a microwave, even when it's not turned on. Even if you're just sitting in it, it's just like basically microwaving yourself. So Scorpio is. Why am I saying this? Oh, yes, the bite of the Scorpio. What is up with that? Yeah, they can kill you or they can enlighten you. That's all it is. And some Scorpios are nastier than others. I had dealings with a Scorpio woman for about 8 years who was dark. Let's put it that way.
Do you think there's also the piece, Cal, that also I think it's sometimes misunderstood with Scorpios too, just because of their innate sensitivity, like their ability to pick up the more subtle currents. Like sometimes I think that there's almost like preemptive stinger action because maybe they're picking up on an energy that they feel like they need to protect themselves from. Do you think it ever can be related to vulnerability because of their innate sensitivity?
Yeah, and they can be nuts. I mean, there's am I paranoid, or are they really out to get us kind of thing? I don't know. So you can't generalize about Scorpios. I wish I could, because I know people like that, but you really can't. And they're very, very interesting because, of course, they always come across, even the scumbag ones can come across as if they've got like it all figured out. And most of the time they don't. And it's really hard to tell the difference sometimes between the good ones and the bad ones. You find a lot of afflicted Scorpio people in the spiritual community. You know, they fall in love with the kind of power that you get from, you know, being somebody who's supposed to know something, and they just totally fuck people up, like Rajneesh or Jim Jones.
Mhm.
Do some research into some of the people who, you know, had those positions, even the movie star, even the rock stars and stuff right now. You can see the ones, you know, there is no way, okay, to say that this Scorpio is going to be like that Scorpio, but if you
Mhm.
get used to being in their presence, you guys, I got my friend across the street. And she is a friend. She's an acquaintance. And she's a Scorpio with a lot of Libra.
Mhm.
Okay, so basically what she's got going on is the iron hand and the velvet glove. You know, and she's Miss Happy, Miss Nice as Pie, Miss Do Everything on the Planet, and Miss I'm spiritually involved too, with multiple disciplines. Okay, and so the presentation or the persona is all sort of geared towards, wow, what an amazingly powerful woman, you know, and she's toxic.
Mm. Well, I
Okay,
mean, all signs have their shadow side. There's not one side that doesn't have a really brutal. I can think of every, somebody from every single sign in the zodiac that can be totally toxic and
yes,
can
yes.
manipulative, you know. Um, so it's kind of, I don't really think anybody can say that about any sign, really. Like they all have their negative expression,
They
but
all
yeah,
do. They all do.
there's definitely a lot of mystery around the Scorpio archetype. What about Inez here says, so does our natal ascendant figure more predominantly in the draconic chart, or is that also different?
It's different. Like my ascendant is 0 degrees Cancer in my natal chart. In my draconic chart, my ascendant is 26 Taurus. All right, so it's a different archetype. It's a different story. They are connected, but it's not the kind of thing. It's like what you want to look at is you want to look at the correlations of the aspects between the natal chart and the draconic chart, and then you can make statements about what this says about the person or what that says about the person. But they're all connected, you know, and they're inter aspects between the draconic chart and the regular chart. They're inter aspects that will tell you a lot about a person. It's one of those things. It's an entirely separate chart that you have to interpret in relation to the natal chart
Mm-hmm.
and according to the aspects and the transits that are forming to it. But it will tell you a lot of, like, for instance, okay, so in my thing, I'm like, okay, Virgo sun, Aries moon, Cancer rising.
Mm.
Okay, in my draconic chart, I'm Leo sun, Aquarius moon, Taurus rising.
Oh, wow.
It's a different story.
Now I want to know mine.
No,
And by the way, thank you, Peggy Lou, for the belated birthday wishes. Thank you.
oh, did she? That's sweet.
Yeah, I just had my birthday on October 13th.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I turned 51.
Oh my God, that's great. So you're in
Yeah,
the
I
middle.
actually feel good. I feel good. Like I don't have any issues with getting older. I actually really feel like I feel better than I've ever felt at any point in my life. I feel like it just gets better and better, actually. So thank you. And thank you for your always tuning in and being a supporter. I appreciate that, Peggy Lou. I love when Cal's on too. Because me and Cal can get like
And we
Well,
can play off it when we can play off each other, and we can bring the intensity forward, and we know we love each other and respect each other. So
oh
uh,
no, always, always.
yeah,
It's I
absolutely.
don't say misunderstandings are just like it's always a misunderstanding. It's not there's no disagreement. Just
No, well, and it's kind of deciphering too. I think no, I think it's actually really good though, Cal, because it's like it exemplifies kind of like what is challenging in society and also the way social media, plays in that regard, like the way it's so hard to like communicate things. And sometimes even when you're talking directly to someone, and that's because we all have different modes of expression, and those modes of expression are influenced not just by being from different walks of life, but it's also like I was saying, generationally, and it does pose a significant challenge. It's like we can't progress unless we also kind of like do the how can I put this, we can't progress unless we regress, in the sense of like we have to look at the stuff that's like kind of like holding us back or is a mess, and figure out how do we integrate it and assimilate it, kind of that crocodile medicine, alligator medicine. How do we digest this so then we can use it as fuel for change and navigate a way forward? And it's very tricky and it's very uncomfortable and nobody has the answers and it's all a mess. But one thing I feel pretty certain about is that it begins with us at least opening up spaces where people can start talking. And even if they have a different way of communicating it,
mhm.
they can stick through those places of discomfort so enough can be digested where we can go, oh, but wait, oh, I get it. Wait, now I get it. Because that even happened in our exchange where it was like we were saying similar things, but just in a very different way. And I think that that's the case more often than not. I've noticed in just watching people kind of interact and face challenges and try to get on the same page with communication, is that I can often spot the place where there's actually like, no, actually, you got a lot of similar points. It's just a different mode of communication and unlocking that. And that's a whole other rabbit hole, but a lot of that has to do with PC culture and like, well, you can only refer to this way now, and you can only refer to this. And now there's all these rules around communication and what that kind of engagement looks like. And can it look spirited and can it look passionate? Yeah. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And that's one of the reasons why I love having you on.
No,
Um,
I think I think it's good to be able to talk. I think that well, I don't know what I think. I think that it's good that we're doing this, and the thing I like about it is it can be whatever it is. I understand that. I mean, I just hope it's worth it to the people that are bothering to tune in. You know,
of course
because
it is. They're
because we
here.
yeah they know what they like. And I being a Virgo, that I have a little sort of smidgen of Virgo in me that is always like, well, we did, I really felt like we should have done more conversation about really Scorpio, but who cares? It's
We
just
did we're doing tons of discussion about Scorpio.
yeah.
Aren't we? I mean, and we just moved through this Scorpio South
Oh,
Node energy, you
so
know?
this is what I was getting at earlier, what I felt like I wanted to say. The nice thing to do, to be able to talk to people who are of like mind, is that when you get into the conversation and it gets to the place where it is gnarly, what's happening is that everybody's having to step out of the lingo, the spiritual lingo, or the vernacular that everybody sort of, like the catchphrases that everybody uses and takes for granted, to refer to the things that are going on right now. So when you really sit down and have a conversation, you're going to have to get around the cliches that everybody so expediently dispenses when they were trying to sound like they know something.
Mm-hmm.
okay, about what's going on. So, and then when you actually have a conversation with somebody who's at least trying to be on the same page, you get to find out that you have to be able to not rely completely on those stupid cliches.
Yep.
The new age vernacular is so bullshit, and people just spout it off as if they know what they're talking about, and they're not even thinking anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the same way that people say things like, "You go, girl," or those cliches that we all use, like that say, "It is what it is." Okay, so you get, the new age version of that is everybody's assuming that we are all on the same page saying the same thing. We're not.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own way of experiencing it and expressing it. And if when it comes out in its true form, it seems as if it's contradicting what somebody else is saying, it isn't that way. It's just that we haven't figured out how to speak from our hearts yet.
I
I'm gonna
agree
do it.
with that.
I'm gonna write the instructions for going into the heart. I'm gonna put that on my Ko-fi page. So because that's important right now.
It
Because
is.
if you can figure out how to go into your heart, you can pretty much change the world.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I love that.
Mm,
And I'm going to just speak to this. Yes, Angela, I do speak loudly. And my whole life I was always shh.
mm,
I was shushed my whole life. And
oh,
I have a resonant voice. So yes, I do. And
yeah.
I have no issues with bringing my voice forward.
Well, that's
Hmm.
good. I basically was told to keep my mouth shut all my life too.
Hmm.
I was
Yep.
like, I was always saying what nobody else would say. And it was, it was like the skunk at the lawn party. I
Hmm.
said,
Oh, I
"Oh,
hear you.
Jesus, how come nobody talks about the fact that cousin Jackie's in jail?" Or any of, shit like that. Oh yeah, well, anyhow, I don't know about you, but I think we've blown our wad here. What do you think?
I agree. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Any last questions for Cal before we wrap everything up here? Anything you want to bring forward for Cal?
I don't see it.
I think that's
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, it's okay. It's good enough. It'll be on YouTube, right?
Yep, yep. Replay
Okay.
always remains up. Plenty of people dropped in, so thank you to everybody who dropped in
Thank you.
and
Yeah,
joined the conversation. I know, that's so
thank you.
Cal. I love it.
What? Where are you? Where am I? Where
Where
are
are
we
you
live?
live? In
No,
our,
I'm in Sedona, and
I'm just outside of Detroit.
Shannon's in Detroit. Yeah, and you're in Florida. And
That's the
Frank
one good thing,
Maloney,
that's the one good thing about what we got going on right now with the
yeah,
technology is it does make the world a little bit smaller. It allows people to connect from, all different places of the world.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. It makes it possible to teach. I have Zoom classes going for advanced astrologers, and it's been great. I've been going like for about a year and a half with that,
Oh,
um, and Zoom makes it possible. Because people always say to me, "Why don't you do a big workshop in Sedona and have people travel out there to spend a couple of days listening to you teach them astrology?" I said, "You can't do that. I mean, it's like that's bullshit. You can't do that."
here's what Peggy is wanting to know. First of all, thank you, Inez. It's always wonderful to have you come. You always show up to these and participate. Peggy wanted to know if you have a live YouTube or anything yet. Are you gonna do your own channel?
No, I don't want to do that. I've got enough to do. You know what, Peggy? I write. I talk about this stuff to myself, to other people all day long, 7 days a week. I don't need to do more of it. I need actually what I need to do is go be human sometimes, because I don't get to do a whole lot of that. That's what was nice about being back east for the summer. You know, here in Sedona, I work all the time. I work and I sleep. Back there, I got to work and sleep and go have fun. And it was really interesting to be close to my children and my friends and my family who've known me forever, doing things that ordinary people do on a daily basis that I never get to do because I decided to be the Wizard of Oz.
Mm.
Yeah. So back when I was back east, I felt like a cactus that turned into a rose. It was very, very hard to come back here. But now I'm back here. I'm so happy. It's so beautiful here. It's 80 degrees. The sun is shining and I can do whatever I want. The one thing I like about being here is I really like being out west because the sky is equal to whatever it is that is going on with Mother Earth. They're on equal ground. Back east, everything is, it's beautiful, bushy. It's like living in a big head of broccoli. And you can't see very far. If you're driving around back east, you can see as far as the row of trees that is on the side of the road. But here I can get in the car. I can see 500 miles in every direction, no matter where I go. And there's nothing but me as a little dot between heaven and earth. And so you're constantly reminded. Plus, you're 5,000 feet in the air, so you're closer to heaven. Okay, and what I like about being out here, as far as my life is concerned, is that it's easier for me to write. It's easier for me to think. And it's easier for me to be clear here because the sky energy is so omnipotent. And the mind is just free to just go out, out, out. Back east, it's all sort of cloistered and safe and kind of like keep it inside the box, and you know, it's fine, but it's just different. The other thing that I like about being out here, the mindset is much more open. Back east, I was like, wow, these people are like so sweet, but so I don't know what the word is, so in the dark about so many things, so sweet and naive about what's really going on right now. I
like the mentality where I'm at right now. I like the directness. I like that people are very community oriented. That feels very different for me from where I was out west.
Oh, California.
Yeah, it's like I hear a lot of talk about those principles in California, but I don't see them lived. And getting out here is like, whoa, it's very different for me to just experience the shift in that. I'd love to go to Sedona someday. I've wanted to go there and like check out Sedona forever. It's been like on my bucket.
You know, Sedona's like blown its wad too. Sedona's like spiritual Babylon. It's insane.
Oh.
It was like maybe 20 years ago. That's when it started going. And now it's all the way down because everybody from California has moved here, and it's a completely different thing. So, our Orange County housewives go crystal shopping.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that's
you know, I guess you got to start somewhere. Where can people find you, Cal? So they can like keep up with like what you're doing with your writing. And,
I don't know. I don't pay attention to my website. I do have a website, but I haven't. I can't do anything with it because they shut me off. They shut me off from Facebook. I do have a Facebook presence, but about 7 years ago, I started talking about things that they weren't happy about. So they blackballed me off of Facebook. I do have a Facebook presence that is superintended by my youngest daughter. I have a website. I have a website that I don't pay attention to right now. The best place to find me is on Ko-fi. I have that Ko-fi page, and I also write an article a month for a publication called the Sedona Journal, which is
Just so you know, if you want to get Cal's Ko-fi, downloads that she brings in, her astrological write-ups, and she also does, she graciously does a weekly horoscope, what you want to do to get set up with that, just to make it easy for you, Cal, so you don't have to navigate it. You can go there. You got to sign up for an account. It's free to sign up for an account. So you'll go to Ko-fi.com. I think it's ko-fi.com. And you set up an account. It's absolutely free. And then once you have your account set up,
it's $1.
right, but they have to know how to find you and how to do it. So I'm saving you trouble, so you don't have to go through the explaining it to everybody every time. They're like, I can't find you, Cal. Okay, so then once you set up your account, you can go and you just search Cal Garrison, and you'll find her page, and you can go and you can sign up, and it starts as $1 donation, and you can do a one-time shot just to experience what she has to offer. You can set up a monthly, like I have, where you get charged, starting at $1. You set the amount, and you can just drink in all of her good juju and wisdom that she has to share, right?
Yeah, I write an article a week, and I post stuff as we go along. Like, yeah. I just posted something today. I forget what it was.
Oh, you always bring in little things.
No, for this.
Yeah.
I posted this. I posted my Clint Eastwood experience. Some songs that I like, this and that. Little Krishna Das. I'm going to do the heart meditation, and I want to do another thing. I'm going to wait, I think, till Valentine's to do that. But yeah, no, I try to bring stuff in that helps me, that you might not be able to find. Like, for instance, there is a videotape that Drumbolo made like years and years ago that fell through the cracks and nobody's ever seen it. It's called the Blue Lake video. And when I used to teach his stuff before I started working for him. And every Sunday I do these week-long workshops. And on the last day of the workshop, I'd cook up a batch of popcorn in the late afternoon, and we'd lie around on the living room floor and eat popcorn and watch the Blue Lake video. The Blue Lake video, I want to post that real soon. I think I might do it just in time for Thanksgiving, because, of course, Thanksgiving isn't a big deal out here in Indian country. They basically don't give a fuck about it. Or except there were a few Orange County Indians who are trying to be like white people. But, okay, Thanksgiving isn't a big deal out here. But the thing about the Blue Lake video, it's about 2 hours of Drumbolo talking when he was cooking, and he tells a story about an experience that took him back to one of his previous lifetimes and his role in the indigenous community and the current thing that's going on now, that and one of the things he came here to do was to heal the rift between the red man and the white man. And the Blue Lake video is all about that. I've watched it 100 times. It's freaking amazing.
It might be really, I might want to check that out myself. So yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Well, it's weird. It's posted on my website in this real obscure place. But
where's it at on your website?
It's on where it says books and videos. And if you go, like I said, I'm not a big website person. I don't pay attention to my website. But the Blue Lake video is on one of the pages. I'll send you a link to it. It's on one of the
I'd like to see it.
I have a bunch of stories. I have a bunch of true life stories on one of the pages on my website. And the Blue Lake video is at the bottom of that list. I'll send a link.
Yeah, I'd
Possibly.
like to see it because that's something that, I've been looking a lot into naturally, but it's also it's one of the things that ended up, driving me off of Facebook. And so it's related to your experience there, but bringing in certain indigenous issues, and it's very interesting. Especially, we're not going to go into the whole like discussion of it, but uh, just as like a condensed little side piece here, it's very interesting just in terms of all the different racial, all the racial tension that we have in the country, and it's so wild how much that piece is completely like swept under the rug and not looked at all in terms of the tribes, and what's going on in terms of their freedom and, their rights, and even agreements that were made that are now just completely just disregarded. And so I'd be very interested in seeing that because it's something that,
Oh, you like it? It's great.
yeah.
He's one of the best storytellers, and there's so many stories. There are so many stories within the story that he tells, because it even goes into that lifetime where he had violated tribal law and he was given a choice. Okay, and he had violated tribal law and he was given a choice. He was told by the elders that they could either execute him or he could kill himself.
Whoa.
And he chose to go do it himself. And he goes into a description of how that worked and where it happened. And the whole story revolves around why he had to do that. Okay, but I'm so grateful for the time that I've spent with this man. I think that I've learned so much from him. Very grateful to have had the opportunity to be his student for such a long time. He and I are still friends. He bought my house for me.
Oh, wow.
The house that I'm living in here in Sedona, I had been working for him. I was editing his magazine for years, and about 7 years anyway. And around the time, there was a point that came, something had happened in the organization, and I realized after 7 years it was time for me to get out. So I handed in my retirement stuff. And at that point, he said, he said to me, he said, well, let's see. He said, I think maybe we should give you a raise. Because he said, you don't need to give me a raise. It's time for me to go. He said, well, okay, well, instead of giving you a raise, I'm going to buy you a house. So he bought me this little house.
Wow, that's amazing.
Back in 2012, and I'm so grateful for it. I have friends right now who are living in their fucking cars.
Oh yeah, that's a big problem right now. Yeah. That's one of the things that drove me out of California. It was like, okay, well, also just everything that went down in 2020. But I mean, prior to that, I was working, 40 days in a row shifts stints. And I was making what should be a really good living, but, pulling in $6,000 a month, it was like all I was able to afford in California was a garage that had been converted into a living space that had concrete floor and just like area rugs thrown down. There was no bathroom there. I had to go use the bathroom in the main house. I had not even a kitchen there. I had to use that in the main house. And then of course there's all the rules that went with that. Like you can't do this, you can't wear that. It's like, well, I may as well, be paying to live in a prison, is how it felt. But it's amazing how many people in California, I mean, what's happening there is it's pretty bad actually, but how many people are in California that are working multiple jobs, that are working full time, and they're living in their cars.
Mm-hmm.
It's really degraded quite a bit. It's kind of sad because it is a beautiful place, and I grew up there, but it's not what it used to be, not at all. And it's kind of sad to see what's happening, but Yeah, that's just, it's crazy, right? Like that should never be the case. Nobody should have to like live in their freaking car, you
Hmm.
know? And
Yeah.
especially people that are out there like working and, you know, doing what they can to earn a living. It's like,
Well, see, this is the thing. They've got full-time jobs and they're living in their cars.
right. I know. It's like, it's crazy. It's insanity.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
And it's all part of this era.
Well, it is. And there's like, I mean, that, and then that's going down the whole indigenous hole. They got me in trouble. It's like, it's all the land grab energy.
Oh, yeah.
It's all the land grab energy. But you
Yeah.
know what? There's a thing about the land grab energy that, you know, sometimes, you know, people forget is that, yeah, and land can be grabbed back too. So I think that that's, you know, there's sort of like this undercurrent of energy that's building at least, you know, the different, you know, sectors that I'm tapped into and what, you know, people I talk to and speaking with native elders and, you know, in the circles that I drop in on, you know, it's interesting to see there are a lot of people, you know, there are a lot of people who are starting to like open their eyes and really start to look at the situation, and we can't continue on with these inequities. Something's got to give, you know, something's got to give. And so I think whatever happens, it's going to be interesting. But
I'm
I
looking
think
forward to it. I'm
I
totally
kind of am
looking forward
too.
to
I
it.
mean, I don't know. I said it when I was on Facebook right before I pieced out there. You know, I said I'd rather die free than live in a cage. And I really feel that. Like, that's how I live my life, you know? So.
How do you like it up in Detroit? How do you like it there?
I like this area a lot. I really do. And I feel like Lake Huron, I absolutely love. Like the energy signature of Lake Huron reminds me a lot of Goat Rock Beach, which is on the Sonoma coast, which Sonoma coast is probably like one of the most gorgeous stretches of coastline in the world. And of course, I miss the redwoods are just phenomenal. I miss that land, you know what I'm saying? But I found that Lake Huron is amazing, and it has all the power signature of like Goat Rock, but it's a more sure power. How can I say it's not so wild? It's more like just so sure of itself and its power, and there's this serenity there. And then in terms of like community, that's one thing I really like about this area where I'm at, because I feel like there's a real sense of community here. And there's people really look out for each other. And it's like even when I go to the grocery store, like we're standing in line and we're all like razzing each other and laughing, and we're not just doing that, like we're talking about real stuff. Like people are talking about real stuff in line. And we're like ping-ponging off of each other. And it's just, I don't know, there's this real beautiful, like creative energy here. But I'll say one thing about this area. I noticed a trend with this area and what they're developing, like permaculture and more sustainability and farmers markets and community gardens and things of this nature. And I'm seeing a lot of like holistic practitioners show up. And what it's really reminding me of is this point right before Sonoma County just like and got totally like, and the whole Bay Area got really gentrified, and because it wasn't always like that out there in California. But I see that same like, I'm hoping that it can stay more balanced here. I have faith that it can. I don't know, but I'm just noticing that it seemed to me like just as things started to move progressive in California was when it's almost like that's when, well, of course, it makes sense. That's when there was like the land grab and like, no, we're going to clamp down on this progression. Let's hold it back. So I'm hoping that, I don't know, the people out here have got a little more grit, though. That's what I think is different. They got a little more grit and they got a little bit more can do. And there's a lot more people here, just in terms of Sonoma County. I can't speak for all of California, but in Sonoma County, there's definitely like, there's a huge sense of entitlement. And there's a lot of people who live there because, you know, they come from money or they're fortunate, you know, they got the trust fund or whatever. So there's just sort of a mentality that's not really, it's very out of step with the rest of the country, I would say. And being out here, you know, I always heard people like online talk smack about the area where I was from and talk smack about California. I never really understood it. I was like, why? Why would people say that, you know? But then I got here and it's like, oh, I have a different reflection now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I'm hoping that they can really root it and ground it here, because I feel like the people out here, they got a lot of heart and they got a lot of can-do spirit. And there's a lot of hardship in this area too. But I feel like people here, like, they don't lose what's important. Like, there's so much heart here and this focus on community and kind of like looking out for each other that I didn't really experience in California.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm hoping that they can take this, like these steps they're taking to move into that like progression, and that they can continue to build on that. I have faith in the people here. I do. They're very spirited and they're funny and they're straight shooters. And I've always admired a straight shooter. Hello, that's why I like to have you on, because you dish it as it is. You don't feel the need to, like, you know, polish it or present it any other way. And I'm very much the same type of person. So.
And Ted Nugent. What about Ted Nugent?
Oh.
You don't like him, huh?
Yeah. No.
Oh, isn't that funny? Isn't
He's not. I don't. Yeah.
No. I shouldn't have even brought it up. I should have.
Oh no, there's. I don't mind you bringing it. He's just not my flavor. I don't know. First of all, I don't like. First of all, I'll admit I'm biased. Okay.
He's not my flavor either. But he astounds me. He's a virtuoso. You got to hand it to him. I play the guitar. I couldn't do that.
I respect that he speaks his mind. I respect that he doesn't sugarcoat what he feels and that he's honest. I'll always respect somebody who speaks their truth, even if it's an unpopular truth. I don't like his music myself. That's what I'm saying. I'm biased. He's not my.
No. You're not a Cat Scratch Fever fan, huh?
Nah, no. But, and also some of his stuff that, you know, he comes out with, I think he's like a little backwards, you know, it just feels like.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
We could drop it. It's not an important thing.
No.
I'm not attached to Ted.
Oh, come on. You're a groupie for Ted. Admit it.
No. I'm not attached to Ted. I just get a kick out of him because he's so in your face.
I like that too. I like tuning in to people that are like that myself. Just, you know, even if I don't agree with their viewpoints or whatever, it's interesting to just hear a different perspective. Hey, you know, if you're telling the truth, you're telling the truth. I'll always respect that over somebody who like tries to just present something in a certain way because it makes it more palatable. You know, so I think we need more of that. It's good. It's good to know where people really stand and what they really feel, where they're at. And that gives you a better idea of how to move forward.
Yeah, I know. That's what I like. At least you know where they're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? That's why I like it out here in Detroit, out in this area. That's what it is. It's like there's no pretense. It's like, this is what I feel. This is what I think. And a stranger will walk up to you and they'll say the most outlandish stuff. And you'll both laugh about it. And that's what's kind of cool about it too, is it's like, I don't know. It's a whole different role, whole different vibe. Mm-hmm. We never got into the aliens and Scorpio. I mean, it was, that's a whole other.
No. No. Well, maybe next time. If we do a next time, we can do whatever.
Oh my gosh. If we do an aliens episode, I got an alien story.
Oh, I don't have any.
I got a big one.
I do have photographs.
Do you?
Yeah, I have a lot of photographs of the alien presence, just mainly in like oceans of orbs in the sky. I'll send you some of them.
Cool. Yeah. I've had some video stuff and this and that, but I had an actual experience. I've been thinking about putting it out there just for, you know, interest purposes, because people like to talk about that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've gone quite a long time. We always go for a great stint here, and I really do appreciate you, and I love you, and I thank you so much for
I love you too.
Being willing to come here. and like
Oh no,
share, you know,
no,
all your wisdom with everybody and giving them a chance to drop in with you and ask questions. It really is like, you know, I have a lot of respect for you and what you bring forward. And so I know that this isn't like your normal thing to do. So I really do appreciate that
no,
you
it's
make
hard for
time
me.
for this.
It's hard for me, but I do it because I like, and I do it because it gives me a chance just to get over myself.
Well, me too.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and it's good. I hope everybody enjoys it. We just keep making it better and better.
Yeah. And spicier and more wild and free and whatever it wants to be without any rules.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you to everybody who showed up. Cal, I'll meet you backstage. I know I just had to speak to it, Angela. I just had to speak to it. I am a singer, so I've kind of gotten trained that way from the time I was really little. I was taught to come from my diaphragm. But it's a funny thing because it's something that I've received like my whole life from the time I was a little girl, where it was like, shh, shh, I was always shushed. And I went through this whole phase. I had to speak to it because it touched on something from that's been like a lifelong thing for me where I became very quiet as a teenager. You would never guess that by me now, and I know that, but I wouldn't even say anything because every time I opened my mouth, somebody would tell me to be quiet or to lower my voice. And then I have Lilith in Sagittarius. Okay. So by the time I became, you know, an adult and I did a lot of deep healing work and integrating work and shadow work of my own, I got to the point where it's just like, this is my voice. And maybe it's meant to be loud and resonant because I'm supposed to speak my truth and I'm not supposed to be quiet. So I know it's all love, Angela, but I did feel like I needed to speak to it. It was important for me to speak to it. All right. Thank you, Peggy, Lou. Peggy's always here too. It's another one that
She's
always
great.
shows up.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
Peggy, Inez, Angela. We have like our regulars that always show up for these. So thank you so much. Really appreciate the support of all of you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
thank you,
It's
Cal.
good to
And
know
I'll
that
meet
you're
you
there.
backstage, Cal. We're going to slip through the portal and wishing all of you a wonderful day, wonderful evening, and we'll catch you on the flip side for the next one.
All righty. Thank you. Thanks a lot.